Telling you, I almost spoke it into existence. You can see it coming. He's making his mind up. Nebraska's going to get one.
3rd and 11.
You better be careful here. You're going to get a pressure package from Nebraska.
Marks back in there. Mayava in the gun. Wing to the near side. Snap back. Has some time. Steps, throws down the field. The pass. He's intercepted. Picked off by Sierra Wright to the 30, 25, 20, Sierra down the near sideline, 20, 10, 5, touchdown, Nebraska. Sierra Wright with a pick 6 for Nebraska, and the Huskers have taken the lead on the road. Marks the back, turn, fake the handoff, throw it the flat, pass caught by Branch, sprints by a Husker into the end zone, touchdown SC. Johnson the back, 2 wideouts left, 1 tight to the formation of the near side. Straight back is Raiola. Has some time, throws to the middle, pass caught, splitting the defenders. Emmett Johnson to the 10, to the 5, he is in there, touchdown Nebraska. Emmett Johnson makes a catch, a little short dump over the middle of the field, race down the near sideline, and Nebraska right back within a point. They motion now the tight end, snap back, fake the handoff to Marks, throw it down the field, have a man open, makes the catch of the 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown SC. Deuce Robinson, the Deuce got loose and scores from 48 out.
It's been a long time since we've seen a guy running wide open.
1st and goal, ball between the 2 and the 3. Marks back in there, 21-20 SC, getting late. 1st and goal to 2, Marks back there to the right of the quarterback. Mayava turns, gives it off to Marks. No, he keeps it himself, and touchdown. Jaden Mayava from 2 out, and it's a 27-20 SC lead. And what a drive that began back at their 16-yard line. 2 to the near side, 2 to the far side. Dillon looks over the defense. Now brings the tight end Borkacher back as a wing. Snap back. Final play of the game. Dillon sets, throws toward the end zone. The ball's in the air. It's intercepted in the end zone by USC. Picked off by the Trojans, and that will end the game. And USC has beaten Nebraska today, 28-20. What an effort by Nebraska today. A lot to like by the Big Red, but they're going to come up 1 score short, and now are 5-5 on the year with a home game next Saturday with Wisconsin.
Live from 50th and Capitol Avenue in the Big O. This is Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone, 1620thezone.com, and 1620 The Zone TV. Now here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy.
I just got 3 things to say. God bless our troops. God bless America. And gentlemen, start your engine!
Good Monday morning, everybody. Welcome in. Oh,
Hey,
well, I thought it was going to be a little bit stronger.
Romantic music on a
Yeah,
Monday.
Pillow Talk with Gary Shaw.
So what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, except for herpes.
Yeah, and those didn't come back.
That'll
right?
follow you.
Yeah.
I did not get herpes.
Thank you. Good.
But I have a cold.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah,
You sound
Herpes
like
might have
I
been
did
better.
last year on a couple occasions where I could barely. I took on a Jay Billis tone.
It's much better. I woke up Sunday morning after we got back, and I was like, okay, the air has changed. My throat hurts. I'm stuffed up. And then I thought it was going to be better, but I haven't talked to anybody. This is the first time I've talked all morning. So, well, it's because I'm going to talk to myself at home.
Yeah,
Hey,
that
Gary,
would
how
be
you
weird.
doing? Hey, Gary, let's go out and win the day.
You're,
All you
you're
said
audibly
yesterday.
talking through the Chiefs game.
So I apologize if
Get 'em in
the
the
voice
playoffs.
sounds a little bit rough. It sounds a lot better than yesterday. So we'll pull through it because, gentlemen, we are in football hell.
Yeah.
More you, Nick, than anybody else. But welcome to
Thanks.
football hell on the 18th of November.
What's
Thank
on
you.
TV tonight?
Thank you.
Anything else?
Yeah,
Mm-mm.
this
Basketball?
is not. Hey,
Hey, maybe this is a good night for us to start watching Tulsa King.
yeah, if you caught up on episode 2 of the Return of Yellowstone, that would be a good opportunity tonight.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think
Mhm.
we're in football hell around here,
Yeah.
and I don't know. We can stay here and we can get kicked out of us, or we can fight our way back
Oh,
into the light. We can climb out of hell,
there you go,
one
Coach
inch
D'Amato.
at a time.
Yeah.
And then the next thing you know, Wisconsin fires their offensive
I know.
coordinator.
Oh, I must have
Yep.
missed it. I'm not
Phil Longo
surprised.
yesterday.
Hey,
The
It's
crew
gone,
cut
though.
is gone.
the can't get over the hump game coming to Memorial Stadium
Yep.
on Saturday. You know, it's kind of cool because I think Nebraska has their second Super Bowl of the 24 season.
Yes.
They had it against Colorado. They're 1-0 in Super Bowls.
Yep.
Now they have their second Super Bowl against Wisconsin, who I'm gonna make this bold proclamation. I think it's gonna carry through all week. Nebraska or Wisconsin, one of them is going to become bowl eligible on Saturday.
Yeah, that is.
There are no more ties.
I will be here all
That
week.
is bold.
Yeah.
That is bold. I'm ready. Let's just get right into Wisconsin. I mean, what do we got to talk about?
No, we got
What do-
lots.
what do we got to
no,
talk
no,
about, huh?
We got lots to talk about.
What do we gotta
Joey
talk
already
about?
chose violence
Yeah,
with Nick
see-
this morning.
Really?
Oh yeah, he
In
came.
Joey
He
way.
popped in.
Well, see, that's why
Said, hey,
Yeah.
how about that game? And
Respectfully.
you're in.
I gave him the F off.
As a Bears fan, you are in football hell. I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. That is, that's a little bit of a rough combination. Like, like if you're a Husker fan and a Bills fan, you're like feeling pretty good. But like if you're a Husker fan and
Yeah,
a
the-
Raider fan,
The
you're like,
Nebraska fan is not a good one.
Yeah.
The Nebraska fan is
no. If you're a Husker and a Bengal fan, you're like, oh, Zach Taylor, come home, because you ain't gonna have a job at the end of the season.
Do you want him home?
I don't know. I think he's a good football coach.
Yeah.
I think that Super Bowl is a long way away from Cincinnati. Cincinnati is closer to the Jets than they are Kansas City.
Yeah, that team's a little chaotic. The Bengals, that is. They're kind of that's kind of what's the best way I want to say it? They're a little unhinged. Maybe that's the best way to put it. They're a little
yeah.
unhinged.
Cam Taylor-Britt got benched last
Yep,
night.
sure did.
Joe Burrow shows great body language. I love Joe Burrow's body language. You can never tell what the Bengals are good or
Yep.
bad.
Especially because they love to go to the
Yeah.
sideline shots of him too, and he's just
Oh,
sitting there going,
God.
"Uh-huh."
Hey, when they bring
The
Zach
hell?
Taylor in at the end of the year and say, you're done, they're going to just show him clips of Joe Burrow on the
yeah,
sidelines.
just going.
Because Joe Burrow looks absolutely miserable.
Yep.
But that was a typical like Charger Bengal game
Mhm.
last night.
Yeah, you get a little surge there at the
Yeah.
end, and then all of a sudden, what the hell's going on with field goal kicking, by the way, in the NFL?
Yeah.
Holy hell.
When Justin Tucker struggles.
Yes.
Yeah, I have Evan McPherson as my fantasy
Yep.
kicker.
He was having
You gotta be
problems.
better. I got to have speaks with him.
Cairo Santos.
Bass blew an extra
I
point.
mean, that was blocked.
Who would have thought Nebraska's place kicking actually better?
Mhm.
The
Yeah.
NFL place kicking.
Yeah.
Kid on game day.
I was telling
drilled
you
that.
guys before we came on, there was a call in one of the post game shows. It wasn't ours, by the way. That was praising the special teams, saying, "Oh man,
At
the
the
special
University
team
of Nebraska,
University of
Lincoln?
Nebraska." Like, hey, just a shout out to special teams, man. They've got, and he mentioned they have it going on all season long.
Yeah.
The last two, he said, we remember about 2 years ago that wasn't great, but boy, this year they've got it going on. I'm like,
Male or
Excuse me,
male,
what?
Male
It
or
was a
female
male.
caller. Okay.
It was a male.
So maybe Ed's brother.
It could have been. It might actually. It was in a smaller community near Kearney.
Okay.
So maybe it was the owner of a business that maybe Ed had frequented too.
I
Felt
will,
like we
I
gotta
will
give him the
play along.
shouts.
I will play along with positivity Monday on a day which, your football weekend probably didn't go so well. Is Brian Buschini has turned out to have a really good year, and he's going to be missed. It's a senior day on Saturday, along with a guy like Ty Robinson, who is a stud, who actually just watching his post game on Saturday night. There's a guy that's deflated. The fact that he had to go with the rah, let's win one from the seniors. Man, what's going on? What is going on?
Trying to will yourself to victory.
That guy is a dude. Mm-hmm. They need more dudes, plenty of dudes. But you think about it, like Brian Buschini's had a fairly good year, and like
a lot more good than bad,
kind of
sure.
Quietly.
Yeah,
and you're definitely gonna miss him.
Those little shanks that were commonplace last year, a lot few and far between now this year.
All right, off and running on a Monday, a reaction Monday to what happened in Los Angeles, what happened at downtown Chicago on the lakefront yesterday. Is yesterday worse than the Hail Mary?
Yeah, okay. 100%, because it's Green Bay.
Okay,
it's Green Bay. They drove. Caleb was doing some things in the game with his legs. I'm like, hey, okay.
That's true. You weren't saying mean words to Joey last week, but you are today. So yeah, I would think.
Yeah, well, right. It's Green Bay. I mean, 2018 seems like so long. I mean, it kind of was. I mean, hell, we're approaching 7 years now, but 2018 was so long. That's the last time Chicago won against Green Bay.
Oh, I thought you meant
that was Mike McCarthy's last game as a Green Bay Packer.
That is a wild stat. 4-28 in the last 32 against your rival.
Yeah, and 2018 was also a Mitchell Trubisky-led offense where hopes were high. Khalil Mack. A double doink that year. There was a lot of things about 2018. Matt Nagy, I believed in 2018. We all know how I feel about him now. So that was a long time ago, and now 11 straight. So yeah, that one hurts because there were a lot of things in yesterday's game that just kept sucking me back in, and then like, oh, okay, same old Chicago. Then they would do something like, oh, okay, and then same old Chicago. As soon as Green Bay scores, but then. The fourth down conversion to Dunze on the back shoulder, I thought, okay, we got something here. Mm-hmm. You get the ball down there. And look, I do want to say one thing for Eberflus. He should be gone, okay? But
do not defend him. If you're defending him, you should turn in your Bears gear today. Take your 51 Butkus jersey and just turn it in here at the station. We'll accept it, and you're a free agent. If you are going to defend your head coach.
Toys for tots, yeah.
No, I'm just going to say the least of my gripes about him as a head coach for the Chicago Bears, the least of my gripes had to do with the final 20 seconds of that game yesterday. Sure, you could go ahead and run a play. That's fine.
Yeah, you pulled a Ryan Day in the playoff.
He did essentially,
Georgia,
but
where you settled for a field goal. At a long field goal.
But 43 yards for Cairo Santos, again, is well within his distance. It got blocked, okay? Who's to say a 35-yarder doesn't get blocked too? So it's almost like piling on for the sake of piling on when there's just so much already on Eberflus that, you know what, I'm not going to waste my time on that. It was very, very frustrating that you get into that situation, they block the field goal. That is Bears versus Packers hell. It was sort of, in a cruel way, very self-fulfilling. Like, had they kicked the field goal, I don't know what I would have done with the rest of my day. Had they made that, I don't really know.
You might have produced another kid.
We might have. I don't know.
True.
And in the long run, maybe that wouldn't be the best thing for me. So maybe this is a good thing.
Reese has a significant other. It's named Cairo. It's named Caleb.
See, it could have been Cairo or Caleb, that's for sure.
Yes.
But it was very self-fulfilling yesterday. When that field goal was blocked, I was pissed off. I was like, you got to be kidding me. But it was just like, well, I mean, that's the story.
I think that's a terrible decision by your head coach. You can never assume that a 43-yard field goal is going to be a gimme.
It's a white flag for sure.
I mean, because right now, blocking field goals at the end of the game is the in thing to do.
First time ever in the NFL that we've had back-to-back weeks where a game has ended, and it benefited your team and unfortunately hurt my team.
Yeah. All right. So if you're in football hell, welcome to the show today. We're going to try and work through this as we welcome into Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Jimmy here as well. Jimmy's very excited. His KU Jayhawks have beaten back-to-back ranked teams, and they have coming to Arrowhead on Saturday.
I'm looking forward to watching them lose for a second time this season in person.
Ooh,
yeah, he's supremely confident. I asked Jimmy, so you guys going to go bowling? And he said, they're going to win out.
Wait, so embrace what we have left because there's only 2 games left. Nebraska's playing their second Super Bowl in Lincoln on Saturday. That's how I'm promoting it. It has to be treated like a Super Bowl.
Print a T-shirt.
Is this weekend in college football, these are teams that are involved like the biggest games that could be movers and shakers in the playoff race will be KU and Colorado, Indiana, BYU, Arizona State, and Army.
Yep.
That's where we are in college football.
God,
and you know what? You know what
great.
football hell means is that the team that you root for isn't involved in that.
Yep.
But yet those teams who you're like, who?
Yep.
Who usually have, like they're like better in basketball.
Right.
But they're playing on the next to last weekend of the regular season in college football and they have meaningful games. It's football hell.
Yep.
It is absolutely football hell. Now we can stay here and get the kicked out of us, or we can NIL our way back. Okay? That's how I'm going to look
Those are
at
the
it.
inches that are in front of our face
Yes.
right there. NIL.
All right. Ben Audie will join us coming up at 8 from the BA Coaches Show. Evan Bigelow, or Evan.
Nice.
Whoa. Why you got to be like that with Evan?
It's a combination. We've blended Evan and Jacob together.
What would that be?
Evan coming up at 8:30, and then Skinny Biggs is coming up at 9.
He is skinny. He's done the work.
Yeah. He lost 50 pounds.
That's
He
awesome.
starved himself. He ain't got no job, so he ain't got no money to eat food.
So he's just
So he
Sarah
just
McLaughlin, same
he's
a
like-
lot of saltines.
He told me he's like 600 calories a day. He's like,
Wow.
he is so excited that basketball season is here because all the free media meals.
True.
Yeah.
True.
Ooh,
Yeah.
This is a rough time of the year too for that. Though.
Oh, I can tell you. Trust me. I'm trying to lose weight. The guys are eating at 11:15 at night.
Yeah, that's not ideal.
Pasta.
That does not do well.
Gary, do you want an extra breadstick?
We're like, hey, surf and turf at 11:15 for the postgame.
Yeah, like, well, I can't say
Yeah.
no.
That is the lineup brought to you by the rooferys of John Higgins Weather Guard. We kid because we care. Jacob looks great, but we'll talk some basketball because yesterday Nebraska played in a place from which they should play more often. I think Nebraska should be the Interstate 29 team. They should play in Sioux Falls. They should play in Omaha. Yes, in Omaha, not just against Creighton. I don't know if the CHI would allow Nebraska basketball to play here. But
no.
Sioux Falls, Omaha, Kansas City. Nebraska athletics needs to be the Interstate 29 team. And great atmosphere at the Pentagon yesterday. Fantastic venue. It's a jewel for the city of Sioux Falls. And Nebraska lost a heartbreaker. Well, maybe not a heartbreaker. They lost a game in which you'd really like to get because St. Mary's is a good team.
Yeah.
Lost by 3. We'll get into a lot of that as we roll till 10. And, of course, when Jacob joins us coming up at 9. How was Big Red Overreaction? How was the tone of Big Red Overreaction?
Angry.
After the loss and after the way in particular the way the game ended.
Yeah, the anger was definitely present. This is going to sound weird.
It already does.
It didn't surprise me that it was, but it was almost as if I was thinking to myself, why are you so mad? Isn't this what we thought was going to happen? And
were people mad at the performance or the officiating?
There was a lot of angst towards 3 elements, and I would rank them in this order: defense, quarterback, penalty, or the non-call there at the end, and that honestly that was like a distant third. It got brought up every now and then.
Were people all in on the officiating? Is that a theme?
I don't think they were all in on it.
Like all in on complaining about the officiating?
Not as much. I felt like that was a distant third. And I think...
Did you guys pull out the rule book and go, this is what a DPI is?
Yeah. Well, and I felt like I stoked the fire because I let off. I said, could have been a hold right there. Maybe defensive pass interference.
Yeah, I got thoughts on that final play, but that was poor across the board officiating all day long.
Because there were several calls that I get the whole, hey, you're just letting them play, but there were things where, especially on the defensive pass interference side of it, that probably should have been called.
I am always Nebraska had plenty of opportunities in that game. I am the control the controllables.
Yes.
And whatever is going off on the side with the officiating, man, somehow, some way you got to play through it. Nebraska's too fragile. They can't play through some of the things that don't go their way.
Yeah.
But they had plenty of opportunities before they ever got to the final play of the game. But
they did. They absolutely did.
It's another horrible showcase for officiating in the Big Ten and officiating across college football because it wasn't just DPIs. There were administrative things that I thought were wrong in that game. But I mean, you kind of do it to yourself. You put yourself in positions where you can't control some things. So the tone was rather.
It was angry.
Okay.
It was angry, and I think my whole assessment of the entire night was, I think the anger not only was from the things that happened on the field in the USC game, but I think it is now that cumulative effect. I think it's now that you're looking at
5 lost 4 in a row.
You're looking at 2 games left. You're trying to figure out, can you get bowl eligible? Here we are again, where you're running out of chances. And so I think all of that came to a head, and I think that's where the anger was. This was because when you and I did the Ohio State game,
that was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago, but it was
different vibe. After
it was
that
subdued.
Game.
It was a very subdued. Yeah, disappointed. Wish we could have won that game. This one was probably the most.
We'll get them
anger.
next time, because that's what we do in Nebraska. We pick ourselves up from the ground, and man, we put the boots back on, and we go back at it.
Pick ourselves up by our bootstraps. I didn't even know people pick each other up by their bootstraps, but that's a thing.
Sounds painful for everybody involved.
It's true, but there was. Yeah, I think. Overall, there was a lot of anger. This was the one time where I felt like I was just kind of sitting back and saying, lay it on me.
Yeah.
What you got, because I wasn't shocked.
Well, so I think we all predicted USC victory. No one's taking a victory lap here. I'm with you, but you know how I feel. So I crossed the bridge after the UCLA game. I said, very average football team that plays in Lincoln.
Yeah.
Hate to admit it out loud, but that's what they are. They have not,
and that's what they were.
They have not progressed as the season has gone along, and there's areas in which they've regressed. And then there's a reality you have to look and say, Nebraska doesn't have dudes. They've got a few. They don't have enough dudes, okay? And they don't do really one thing exceptionally well. So after the UCLA game, I came to the realization that Nebraska is a very average team. Now, 5-5 would tell you they are a 500 team. But the reality is they're a very average football program. So I expected almost everything that happened on Saturday to unfold.
Yeah.
And I said 28-24 USC. But when you're an average football team, you need an exceptional effort and you need things to go your way, especially when the other team gives you opportunities. And USC,
and they did.
USC gave Nebraska so many windows to step through and run away and take the game. And when you're an average football team that does not have an abundance of guys that just make a play when you got to make a play or make a play call when you need a play call, then you're going to get the result like that. And you're going to go, all right, well, I know we were an underdog and it's kind of like it was the spread, but that's I can't get agitated about Saturday,
right?
Because I thought that game kind of played out like it did. And when you're an average team and somebody says, hey, we'd like you to win the game, you got to jump on those. Okay. Most teams, good football teams in that game, when USC says, here you go, they say, I'll take it and I'll see a couple of touchdowns.
Yeah. They had a quarterback on the ropes in that game. And I'm not talking about Dylan Raiola and USC. I'm talking about Jade Maeva. He was on the ropes after that pick six. And you could see some of the throws that followed that, the hesitation in certain instances as well, that this is where, if your level of frustration was amped up more so than what you thought it could be, maybe it was because, again, the defense in key moments. Now, this is this is sort of the catch-22 of the defense, though. They were frustrating because a lot of the same things that, weirdly enough, happened last November too, and have happened this year, not being able to get off the field in key situations. You have 2 plays that need to be made. Tommy Hill, Malcolm Hartzog have to be made. You bail out.
Tommy Hill didn't make a play?
2 in a row.
Malcolm Hartzog at 5'9" was matched up with Deuce Robinson, who's
6'6". Yes. Great matchup there, by the way. Those are all of those right there.
They are just do the face palm football team.
Yep. And the secondary especially. And in a game like that, and this, I want to bring up something you brought up about personnel here in a moment. But so there was the bad of that. But then you also get Sierra Wright getting a pick six. You get the turnover. You get, even from a special team standpoint, you get a blocked field goal. So you get moments in this game where, hey, trying to do our part, trying to roll something out for the offense, take advantage, please. And I think there were some nice things offensively.
Points, ma'am. We give you the football in plus territory. Points, please.
Yep.
Points more than a field goal. Thank you.
But
make a play, make a pass, make a completion, score a touchdown.
They couldn't.
They are who they are.
You had a chance to knock out a quarterback from a confidence standpoint so early in that game. It didn't happen. Then the other part about it is you bring up personnel. I'm watching this USC team play. Lincoln Riley had one highlight of the game, and I think everybody's probably talked about it at this point, and that was the 4th and 1.
That might be one of the better play calls that Lincoln Riley's ever had.
It was great. It was great. And at first, when they start running option, I'm like, uh-oh. But watching their operation, but watching their personnel. You mentioned Deuce Robinson, 6'6". I'm still, why isn't anybody questioning, was he out of bounds coming back in on that catch?
Okay, so that's on my list of
administrative
stuff.
Let's get to that a little bit later, because
the 2 where he went out of bounds, came back in, and no one really brought that
up.
It
didn't even get replayed.
Yeah.
And it's really bad when they show the throw from basically from the quarterback angle, so you see it far down the field. I'm pretty sure he's out of bounds. But anyway, but a guy like Deuce Robinson, we've talked a lot about Zachariah Branch. We talked a lot about Woody Marks. I think Kyron Hudson's also a very good player. You're watching the type of players that they have offensively. And here's the other thing, not only personnel-wise, they've got guys that can overcome certain things. So whatever the operation is on that sideline over there, and I'm sure there's a lot of USC fans that have strong opinions about that, they have guys that can overcome some of those things.
Yeah, they didn't have – this is Nebraska's issue, Nick. Nebraska had some players that let down the scheme on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
USC had some plays where the scheme benefited some guys.
Agreed. Totally agree. And then first down every time you're giving to Woody Marks, same freaking play.
Well, they ran counter and counter and counter.
Yes, exactly.
But that's winning one-on-one battles.
Yes.
It wasn't like they did anything special. Nebraska just couldn't. Nebraska didn't have guys that could make plays when they needed to make plays, and that's not anything that is new.
Exactly, and that's the end of this. There's nothing new about what happened.
There is the part of Saturday, and I pose this question to everybody: is can you be mad and optimistic at the same time? That's a football team that in certain areas looks old and clunky. Mm-hmm. Just, next year on defense they're going to be a lot faster.
Yeah.
Okay, and they're kind of old and clunky on defense. The operation on offense at times looks old and clunky, but I saw some things on offense, still got to score some points, that the operational
I know where you're going with
movement of the offense gave me hope.
Yep, I agree.
So I'm not mad because I kind of expected that, and that game on Saturday is exactly who Nebraska is. But if you're thinking, okay, the OC now has seen personnel in a game, run things, and he's got film to watch of the team that he just coordinated. Mm-hmm. What's he going to be like this weekend against Wisconsin? And then a step further, if there are little things, what he did with the quarterback, who's going to be a big discussion today because he needs to be a discussion.
Yep.
It gives me optimism for next year. So can you be mad and optimistic at the same time when you turn off the television or turn off the radio after the game on Saturday?
It's a tough ask, but you should. I mean, if you can look at it objectively, I think absolutely, because I 100% am jiving with what you're saying about the offense. In fact, I
still got to have points.
I got to say, I went from 6 to midnight when I saw them going early tempo. There was a little mix of huddle, but then all of a sudden, getting line of scrimmage, good play. 4 or 5 yard gain, right back to the line of scrimmage. Yeah. So they were pushing it a little bit. The ability to try to put Dillon in position to get the ball out of his hands quickly, a lot more slants we saw, which this was interesting. And the best example of it was on the touchdown pass to Emmett Johnson, but the mesh concepts that you're going to see in this offense, which they still existed with Satterfield, but there's going to be a lot heavier emphasis on that. You saw, I think, identifying a couple of running backs that really intrigue Dana Holgorsen, Dante Dowdell, and Emmett Johnson. We saw a lot more of Emmett Johnson, and we saw a lot more of Emmett Johnson in the passing game too. So there were things where you can tell they're trying to build back more confidence. Not saying he's showing up every day with no confidence, but they're trying to build back the confidence, the in-game confidence with Dillon, with the positions that Holgorsen tried to put him in. And I think this is where this offense, I'm not going to say is going to all of a sudden, we said this all week, it's not going to put up 28, 35 points, all of a sudden just be able to change their average. But can you just squeeze every bit of life out of this offense, whatever it has? And I think there were glimpses of that. I said this on Friday.
Got to make plays, though.
Yep, and there were going to be frustrating moments, and there were frustrating moments as well.
Plays are blocked for a touchdown. When they are blocked and there is a touchdown there, you need to hit your head on the goalpost.
Yep. The game was lost, absolutely. You get that fumble recovery, Bayer when the strip from Ty. That has to be a touchdown.
Yep. You got
I mean, a field goal. Well, okay, well, you got some, but
gotta have 7.
You got to have 7. Out
yep. All right. If you were not able to get in on Big Red Overreaction on Saturday,
it was jammed the whole time.
That's all. Well, that's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
See, people still care. People are telling me I'm not
do.
going to the Wisconsin game. I've given up on Nebraska football. I'm like, you'll be there. It's the final game. You know what? You got to embrace these. We only have 2 more regular season games. There is no guarantee that Nebraska will play in the month of December. Now, it would be
it definitely is not.
It would be very, very uncomfortable around here to go back-to-back 5-7 and lose your last 6 games.
We're close.
Because it would be tough to make the tour of the state and be at the gazebo in downtown Columbus going, my people, year number 3.
There's no gazebo in downtown Columbus. Frankfurt Square. Well, I guess actually Frankfurt Square has more of a stage.
Moose told me that he was hanging out in a gazebo with Verduzco one time.
Maybe he thinks
it was on a tour. It was not like just randomly. They hopped in a car and they drove to Columbus.
They just went there.
Yeah.
They went to the Pawnee.
I don't think anybody just randomly drives to Columbus. No offense. You can join the show on the 42 Degree The Source hotline, 402-951-1620, or on the Equitable Bank inbox, which is going to be jamming today, where they take banking personally, and they will answer on the first ring.
Doug was active Saturday.
Did Doug call into the show?
He didn't call in, but he had some emails, and he even tweeted. He was tweeting at us.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's that. Now you know it means something.
He was fired up.
Gary at 1620thezone.com.
Handley at 1620.
Also on the JTech Construction Zone Twitter feed, where Hockey Dad, good morning, Jonathan, says, my tickets are for sale on SeatGeek. No desire to be there. It's the second Super Bowl of the year for Nebraska. You know, it's the last home game. You don't get another one of these until next September.
And you know, we're not going to have a bad weather Memorial Stadium game because it's going to be 45 and sunny.
Pretty good.
But
so we're avoiding that.
The reality is, in a game in which this is the get over the hump game, can't get over the hump game, there will be quite a few people that are like Jonathan. They're like, screw it. I can't do it. Mm-hmm. And the investment emotionally, physically, financially, can't do it. Can't do it. And I don't blame you. I'm not here to judge you.
Yeah.
It's getting tougher. It's getting tougher, especially when you have a throng of fans that go out to Los Angeles, which I'm saying Nebraska basketball should go to Sioux Falls or Kansas City every year. Nebraska football playing in Los Angeles every year is such a boon because that was essentially a home game for Nebraska.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Gary at Gary Sharp 1620.
At Nick Handley 1620.
All right, we are off and running. Gary Andrews, stay right there. Lots to discuss about Saturday, Sunday, college football playoff. Maybe you Friday night you got to see Mike Tyson's butt.
Yep. You might have. Yeah, that part most people got a chance to see.
Did it freeze on the butt?
The entire fight. Ooh.
Dude, I was in Vegas watching that fight. I was in a casino. I wasn't like bellied up to watch it, but I had it off on the side.
Yeah.
Man, the crowd that is attracted by Jake Paul, that is like my check out my onlyfans.com crowd. But I got to see Mike Tyson's butt and Antonio Brown streaming the video board during the fight.
Oh, and even better than to...
And I was very sad with Mike Tyson.
Yeah. What do people expect? It's the same thing as Saturday in the Nebraska game.
No, there were a lot of people who expected Mike Tyson at 58 years old. Father Time is unbeaten.
And he looked really old.
Yes, he did.
Very, very
That's
old.
okay. I mean, the biggest winner of
Rosie
the
Perez?
weekend. No.
Okay.
Nothing that has to do with Netflix.
Why was Rosie Perez doing the fight?
The biggest winner was whoever wrote the script for WWE for that, because that thing was rigged.
Yeah.
That thing was rigged.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if it was not rigged, Jake Paul would have knocked Mike Tyson out.
Yeah.
Okay, hello, come on, what are we doing? But a lot of people bet on it. A lot of people watched. It was unbelievable. 60 million households.
Mm-hmm.
God, what does that say about America? Maybe that was America.
Says everything.
That fight is America.
I feel like we've
red, white, and blue.
Yeah.
All right, 38 past the hour. Off and running. Lots to discuss. We're all back together in studio on a Monday. Let's do this, everybody. The second Super Bowl of the season is coming up on Saturday for Nebraska and Wisconsin. Well, actually, for Nebraska. Wisconsin may have played their Super Bowl Saturday night.
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm hoping, is that everything was put into that basket. They damn near pulled it off. There was a decision on the fake field goal, like, and then not to be. Now I'm wondering if Wisconsin's just overly deflated now. They're like
Luke Fickell, Matt Rule, year 2, both 5-5. Do what you will with that. We're back with more Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone. All right, here we go. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Jimmy here as well. 402-951-1620. I'm going to play the role of bartender. You can play therapist over there throughout
Gladly.
the morning. Make it stop. Why can't we have a little bit of fun? Why can't we have some enjoyment?
I mean,
Why can't we have good things?
We can. We can do those things.
Why does Josh Allen have to run on fourth down? And
I'm sorry. Did you
them
lose
in
your
the playoffs.
only game of the year?
Hey,
in
Your
January.
first. Oh, my goodness.
good job, Bills.
Yeah, they won the regular
You're
season game.
4-1 again in the regular season.
Yeah.
Yay.
I'm 3-0,
Uh-huh.
bitches.
Make it 4 now.
In the postseason. All right, we start with Gary. No preference because of the first name. He was just first in this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. You made a comment earlier
Huh?
regarding people's disposition after this game,
Yes.
and you used the word angry. Well, the angry part for me was the refereeing.
Okay.
If they cannot do their job properly, especially when you have two of them, seeing two holding calls and pass interference calls,
Mhm.
Okay.
you need to suspend them without pay.
Okay.
There's my angry part.
Okay.
The agitation part is, again, not winning a game, losing, 4 in a row now. But now I need from all three of you to help me understand something.
Okay.
Mr. Holgerson has been on that campus for 2 weeks.
Yep.
I'm sure the first week he spent as many hours as he could to look at game films and try to pick out who his dudes are, as you refer to them, Gary.
16,
Why did it take-
21, 17, 19.
Yeah, there you go. Why did, and 20, yes. So why didn't he identify the fact, and why did he wait to use Jalen Lloyd with only 2 to 3 minutes left in the game?
Yeah, that's you know what? It's the end of the season, and here comes Jalen Lloyd again, and all Jalen Lloyd does is get open, Gary. I don't have
I
don't
know.
have an answer for that. Now he had to make a hell of a catch on that
Yeah, he
final drive.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
I
you
don't
saw,
I don't know why he was not used sooner in that game, because you're right. All he does is he gets open.
yeah. I mean, if you're looking at films and trying to get what dudes you can use, even though you're only 2 weeks there, but you've been promoted, and you're not, and you supposedly have looked at films where Jalen has been wide open, and pretty much every time he touched the ball in previous games, he scored.
Yep.
And yet we wait that long to utilize him in the offense.
Yeah, I think let's have this
confusion.
discussion next Monday if
Okay.
it goes like that against Wisconsin, because I
All
think one thing about Holgerson, and thank you, Gary, is he's now seen guys that he's now coordinated with that are on tape, and he can see what they can and can't do.
Yeah.
So I think you'll see another, and there's only so much you can do when you walk off the street.
Right.
That's what a homeless guy once told me. He said, "I can't change the world, but I might change your life." Had a great conversation with a homeless guy once.
It's good. Did it change your life?
I would love to know what he's doing. Yeah, I mean, he was very. I was like, man, I can't believe you're down and out on your luck. So you come off the streets and you have to coordinate an offense. I think this week against Wisconsin, there'll be even more like tweaks or utilization of mismatches. Like Holgerson probably walked in and said, "What position do you play, Mr. Bonner?"
Yeah,
sir, I don't want to block. I want to catch. And he played 23 snaps season high. And he was a pass catcher?
Yeah, and he was a factor.
He was a mismatch guy.
Yes, he was. He was a big factor.
Here is Andrew. Good morning, Andrew.
Hey, Gare.
Hello, Andrew. What's up with you? How you doing before 7 on a Monday morning?
But I have to say, you were talking earlier in your beginning monologue.
Yes.
Of
where are we going?
That we have to talk about Raiola.
Yes, we do.
I mean, there's people open,
and
he is not seeing them.
Yeah, it's a weird situation where he doesn't have great play feel right now, and I mean it's probably a multitude of reasons, but they need him to be a playmaker, and he's not there, and he's become very easy to defend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
but
the best way to put it.
I think the defending's over.
No. Defend as far as the defense.
Like if I'm designing, like if I'm a DC.
Okay.
Not defending his performance, because I didn't think we'd get to week 10 and we'd be saying, well, he still plays like a freshman. I thought we would have started to make the transition into, okay, That looks like a guy that's played 9 games. He's balling in game 10, but that certainly is not there.
And if we keep on putting, now this kind of counteracts what I just said, but if we keep on putting receivers that can't get open out there, how do we expect to pass?
That's fair. I think there are times where Dylan, he doesn't have a lot of zip on the ball. It's more of touch, which he's going to have a monster offseason to become an NFL quarterback from the head to the heart to the legs to the arm and all that kind of stuff. But you're right, Andrew. I think there are times where Dylan throws the ball thinking of wide receivers that he wants, not what he has. Because Nebraska's wide receivers don't get much separation, and they don't win a lot of 50-50 balls. And he throws 50-50 balls.
Yeah.
And I would also say, and I believe USC did this, was run a quarterback bootleg every once in a while.
Yeah. The mobility part is really hampering Nebraska from that position.
Yep.
And that's all I have to say. Creighton won. That was nice. The game's coming this week, you Husker fans.
You?
They had a nice game against St. Mary's.
Yeah. We'll discuss later the personnel on the floor in the last possession, but yeah, Friday will be a banger at the CHI. It might not be as big as the Billie Eilish concert last night, but
she's
might be
camping
close.
out for that one.
Andrew, thanks for the phone call. Yeah,
I didn't know she was in town last night. How about
yeah.
that?
Oh, huge.
Yeah, there was
sold
a huge
out.
Kids like her.
They were camping out as early as late Saturday night, I think.
Yeah, because the floor for her concerts are all GA.
Yeah,
and so you got to get there, and she's got a huge following.
But
I wouldn't mind going to the show.
I would have too. Everything I've heard, and then I even watched, I think, one of her performances on Saturday Night Live. Puts on a hell of a show. Real quickly about Dylan's.
I thought about going to Usher at T-Mobile on Friday night.
Oh, gonna go to Usher.
He was there. Yeah,
on roller skates?
or going to see Daniel Tosh. He was down at Aria.
Is Tosh still a thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, as long as Lane Kiffin is still coaching.
the mobility part that Andrew brings up, and this is another thing, is a very subtle thing. And again, I don't know if this was because we saw against Ohio State, Dylan at least attempting to do this too. I don't know if there was a little bit more emphasis on it, but essentially instead of being, check down Charlie, there was the just tuck it, shoot up the gap. Now
Tuck it, Tim.
There you go. Tuck it, Tim. The overall yardage was very, very negligible. But as far as his attempt to try to shoot up the gap, shoot up the pocket, and tuck it and run, there was attempts to do that. Now,
no play feel.
The
two-time sliding down short.
You just said something though to Andrew that I think is a great point. If we were projecting Dylan back before the UTEP game, hell, after the UTEP game, let's just do that. Did we think we'd be still saying he's still playing or he's still making freshman mistakes? Because isn't this when you're supposed to be kind of that sophomore? You've got that experience. I think that's a very tough pill to swallow that we're having right now.
Maeva kind of revitalized Lincoln Riley. Dylan was supposed to do that with Rule late in the season. Let's wrap the hour with Tony on the 42 Degree The Source hotline. Good morning, Tony. Welcome to the show.
Morning, gentlemen. Thank you. Hey, Nick, the other day, good job on Big Red Overreaction, by the way.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I know Gary wishes he could have been there with you.
He does. He was very upset that he couldn't be on.
I'm done for the year.
I know that's his fave. You took a call from a guy, and the way you guys talked to him, I think you took him seriously. Guy from Texas, who claimed to be an ex-booster from the Longhorns.
Mm-hmm. I remember.
And he started throwing some things out there that I feel I can say, because if you're going to get paid, then the people who pay you have a right to, leave a review. Whether you're 18 or not. But I mean, 16, 17, 18, we start working, and that's just part of life. And we're subject to evaluation. So he was saying that, and I've always thought this, there's 6 guys in their 6th year, and I believe they're holding the program back a little bit. I think that they have a mental capacity that doesn't allow them to overcome tough spots. But he talked about how our NIL is not up to where it's at. Now, I thought it was. He was throwing out there that it's going to take 15 to 17 million to play with the big boys, then I mean, I guess he said we're paying Raiola $200K now. Is this
No,
all
he
public
said, if
information?
I remember it correctly, Tony, he said everybody else, there was not one player that was making more than 200 to 250 other than Dylan.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Dylan is probably the highest paid player on the team.
That's what he was saying, yeah.
Okay. If you have a superstar in the majors or pros and they're the highest paid player, they're the most scrutinized, and they're the one that is expected to do the most, and that's just how it goes.
Mhm.
So if we're gonna be asked to pony up another $7 or $8 million for NIL, we're not seeing results right now with $9 million. My question is, well, what more does the university need from us to not, or to guarantee us they can at least make a bowl game every year? Because right now, the way you guys ended Big Red Overreaction, you said, well, no, none of you agreed we were going to win our sixth game this year, and I don't either. So 2 years of 5 and 7, where's that put Rule? And how did the donors go? Because I'm no longer a donor. I don't have tickets anymore. I just can't justify the expense for the production. Now maybe that makes me a bad fan. I think it just makes me a smart business person. But
I agree.
Curious.
Yeah.
I'm just curious. What do you got? What needs to happen? I'm out of answers, but you guys are probably too. That was a very eye-opening phone call as to what it's going to take. But man, before you shell out money, don't you want to see that you're going to get return on your investment?
Yep.
You guys have a great morning.
That's a good business decision, Tony. Thanks for the call. We'll address it after the top of the hour. I heard a lot about that phone call.
Yeah.
And
he also brought up the 21 mil that university is going to have to pay for the revenue share.
I'll call BS on that guy calling. Nobody that is a booster that has money like that calls into a post-game show. Trust me, they don't. They hang out there. They're in the background. They don't call talk shows.
Right. He claimed he was a former Texas booster, but he's very well connected to Nebraska. That was the context.
Yeah.
He paid money to screw Nebraska back in the day.
If that does anything for you, Gary.
I know I could probably identify 4 of the top financial guys with the Nebraska Athletic Department and never in their life called Big Red Overreaction, and they would never call a talk show, and they don't want to be known.
That's when you know
unless
it's bad.
there's a name on a building.
Yeah. That's when you know it's bad, though, when they're starting to call talk shows.
But there's some Tony said that I did get from the caller that is of interest about NIL that we'll get into when we come back in the next hour. It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
The high school football state championships are set for next week at Memorial Stadium. Get excited in Class A, Omaha West Side, Millard South, 7:15 on the 25th. That's a week from tonight. Bennington and Scott in Class B, 7:15 the night after. C1 Central City against Wahoo, a week from tomorrow, 2:45. Class C2, Norfolk Catholic against Wahoo Newman, a week from tomorrow, 10:15 a.m. And Sandy Creek against Stanton, a week from today, 2:45. And an 8-man 2, Central Valley and Riverside, a week from this morning, 10:15. Should be good weather. That's good. We get the matchup we wanted. Hey, shout out Marty. All that good luck from coming on the show Friday. Union Omaha gets a quick start, strong first half, and that's all the Owls needed. They win their second USL League One title in 4 years with a 3-0 victory over most hated rival Spokane at Werner Park. The Peterman was there. He brought all the good feels and luck to them.
And 311 lead singer Nick Hexum
Yeah.
was there as well.
And 5,800 plus.
Yeah.
Nice
Great day.
They need to get out of Werner Park, though. They need that new soccer stadium.
Mm-hmm. This will help.
And they also need, unlike the baseball team that plays there, it's about family fun entertainment. And when people leave the ballpark, they sometimes don't even know if the Storm Chasers won. They were there for the experience.
Yeah.
Like Union Omaha needs to win, and they have won a lot.
Yep.
Like the Supernovas need to win, and they did
so far
really
so
well.
good.
Yeah. So you've had the Storm Chasers won the International League Championship.
Mhm.
You have Union Omaha won USL League One for the second time in 4 years. You had the Supernovas win the championship in their first year. The Omaha Beef won another championship.
Titletown.
Welcome to Titletown.
Yeah.
But they need
Big
promotion. They need promotion in that league. Like, could Union Omaha? I know with maybe a new stadium, they might be more attracted to the next level up that is right below MLS.
God, I would think so.
But
Not knowing much about that world, I would think that would be a huge benefit for them.
But they need to win to draw fans, in my opinion, because they need to get more than just the soccer crowd.
Yep.
And they've won, so people we like winners in this town.
Absolutely.
But they need to get the hell out of Werner Park. I think I know people that don't go because it's not a soccer friendly. But once they move into their new stadium, man, Union Omaha's got a chance to just pop big time in this town.
Exciting. Also exciting. Nebraska volleyball sweeps Indiana Saturday. Not a shock. Clinches their 40th straight win at home over 3 seasons. The longest active home winning streak in the country, and the Huskers' longest home winning streak since winning 88 in a row from 2004 to 2009. They swept Indiana. They're 26-1, 16-0 in conference play going into a Wednesday night match at Iowa. Excuse me as I try to not die here. Bryce Williams' shot glances off the side of the rim, a fitting metaphor.
A rough look.
I know. But you know what? The show just goes on, and then we just press a button and we're good.
Joey!
St. Mary's beats Nebraska ball at the Sanford Pentagon, 77-74. A lot of Husker fans in there. The night before, the U-Betchas beat South Dakota, 113-70 at the Pentagon. 5th-ranked Creighton volleyball hit a school record 548, recognized 7 fantastic seniors, then swept Georgetown that clinches the Blue Jays' 11th straight regular season title. The victory also secures the top seed in the Big East tournament. They close the regular season next weekend with road matches at DePaul on Friday and Xavier on Sunday, needing just one victory to clinch an outright Big East title. Their basketball team was also victorious on Saturday. They play Nebraska on Friday. That'll be exciting. Omaha hockey splits at Arizona State. Understatement. Omaha hockey splits at Arizona State. Omaha men's basketball falls at Southern Utah 79-73. They rally from 20 down and get to within 2 late. Omaha volleyball beats South Dakota in 4 at Baxter Arena. In the NBA, the Cleveland Cavaliers are the 4th team to start 15-0, tied for the second best start to a season in league history, trailing the 15-16 Warriors, who went 24-0. Then they went 73-9. Then they lost the finals, and everyone rejoiced. The 93-94 Rockets started 15-0. They won the title. The arena they won the title in now is now a church. And the Washington Capitals, not that Washington Capitals, were 15-0 back in 1948-49. All made the NBA Finals. Finally, Wisconsin fires offensive coordinator Phil Longo yesterday, a day after the Badgers' 16-13 craptacular performance against number 1 Oregon. So close to winning if they had an offense. Wisconsin ranks 97th nationally in scoring, 102nd in passing while operating an air raid-style offense. Not anymore. Luke Fickell did not immediately announce an interim coordinator for the Badgers' final regular season games against Nebraska and Minnesota.
He looks too much like a defensive coach.
I think, didn't they name the tight end coach, Nate Letton, who has been with Fickell at the end of his Cincinnati tenure, and he's been the tight end coach for 2 years. In a short week, it's not like they're all of a sudden going to
go get
completely away from the dairy raid.
Right.
Nice. And Dana's off the market, so you can't go get him.
Wow.
He doesn't. Am I wrong though? Doesn't he looks? He should be a defensive coach. Phil Longo. You can't be taken serious when you got the crew cut like that. You look like a defensive man, guy. Come on. That's not an offensive play caller genius look.
Science.
He does look like Chet from Weird Science.
This is a discussion this week. Who left the program? Who stole the cupboard? Scott Frost or Paul Christ? This is like the fickle rule is kind of interesting. Their first
and
2
those
years.
were within 24 hours between Rule and then Fickle being hired. The splash that made at not only the respective schools but in the Big Ten and on a national level too is huge.
Now one has had injuries, the other has had all kinds
Nebraska
of stuff.
things.
But this is the can't get over the hump game. It's the Super Bowl II for Nebraska.
Hey,
you brought up the Capitals. So I just came from Hockey Town, where they love the Vegas Golden Knights. 103% capacity at T-Mobile Arena. Tough ticket, but when you go, they put on a Vegas type show.
Yeah.
Last night they had Washington there, and you see what Ovi did? Ovi had a hat trick. Have you looked at who is the leading goal scorer in the NHL right now?
Alex Ovechkin.
Yes,
who is closing
17 games into the season, and the Capitals are 12-4-1. That was a huge win last night in Vegas. He's got 13 goals. He leads the NHL. He's 29 away from breaking the Great One's all-time goal scored record.
Yep.
That's awesome. I mean, and they're letting him do it, and he's playing great.
He's old Ovi, but now he's it's just
I'm rooting for him.
I am too.
It's one of the rare Russians I will root for.
You didn't even root for Drago at the end?
Hell no. I'm all about Rocky.
Come on. He was programmed.
Who cares?
It wasn't his fault.
I rooted for the Cowboys.
Well, I wasn't saying you're rooting for him to beat Rocky,
Put
but
that guy in Siberia.
Yeah. They joined forces there at the end, though. Drago and Rocky with their sons.
Hey, sounds like the U.S. and Russia are going to join forces again. Did you guys see, though? I've never seen so much lopsided games like we just had in the football semifinals. Like there were blowouts all over the place. So I hope the football gods up there will bless us with close games at the state football championships, which are next Monday and Tuesday. And of course, we finally get Millard South and West Side. May the best defense win that game, because I think that's what it'll come down to.
Are you guys doing? Are you doing any?
I have no idea.
Okay. It'll be an 11th hour decision.
I don't know. Maybe I got a cold in Vegas. I'll see what I get in Akron, Ohio.
oh, that's right.
Jesus, talk about traveling the beautiful parts of this world.
Going to Vegas to Akron.
All right.
It's a bit of a letdown.
News out of the NFL real quick here. The Giants, according to Ian Rappaport, are benching Daniel Jones. Shocker to everybody. All right. Dial into the fan right now. 402-951-16.
People are going to be pissed off that didn't happen earlier. That's their only reaction right there.
Here is Old Man Doug. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, Doug.
Where would you like to start?
I'm pissed. How are you?
Did you say you're pissed?
He did.
Doug's pissed.
I'm actually doing well. Thanks for asking.
Everyone's being me today.
All right.
I'm in a good mood.
All right. So where do you want to start, Doug?
Well, I think we talked about this, and that caller from Texas. When we lose a game like this, I just can't call in because I'm going to say something I probably shouldn't. If you think about it, we have such a huge investment in Dylan Raiola, almost to the point where if he doesn't do well, we can't do well. The defense wasn't good. We can talk about that too. But my thought is, and I tweeted this to and emailed, and I didn't know if you guys were even getting any of those.
We were, we were flooded pretty well there. There was a lot of reaction on Saturday. But,
when we have running situations inside the 10-yard line or even inside the 15, why can't we bring Harburg out and do some true art? I mean, you have to be able to run for it to be an RPO. And I just think Dylan is horrible in the red zone. And where I'm going with this is it seems like, oh no, we can't pull Dylan out because he'll transfer or he'll pout or whatever. And maybe he would, maybe he wouldn't, but it seems like that's what
the coaching decisions indicate. I'm not saying you start Harbaugh. So let's stop right there. I don't think you should, but I do think there's situations where you could bring him in and it changes what a defense has to do. And I mean, him missing Banks he is, as Andrew said, he's missing a ton of receivers. I did think even though the statistics would not show it, I have just a sliver of optimism because I thought the offense was better. But if Dylan can just start playing, but it seems like he's just absolutely bulletproof from mistakes, and he keeps going out there. And I think it's hurting the team. I really do. I think there's a mentality that he is the ultimate golden boy there, and no matter what he does, he's going to come out the next play, the next series, whatever. And I'm not saying Harburg is better, but I think Harburg is better in certain situations, and particularly, near the red zone. And I think he's a year better. So I think his throwing won't be as bad as it was last year. But, watching Hartzog continually, and everybody has figured that out. And he's not 5'9". Trust me, he's not 5'9". He's 5'5" at best.
No, he's not.
And,
he's not 5'5".
No. Hey,
no,
they listed Mondale Robinson as some ridiculous height, and I ran into him at the airport, and I'm not sure he got to my shoulder.
No, he's 5. I would, if you said 5'8", I would entertain that, but he's 5'9".
I'll say this.
I spent some time
I'll
with
say
him.
this about him.
Him and I are about the same height.
I'm sure he's a great kid and tries, but he's just not a Big Ten quarter. And, he gets compared to Grigsby, actually made a lot more plays. He's trying as best he can, unlike another single-digit number that's fairly close to him.
Hey, Doug, stop right there. Doug, stop right there. Stop right there. This is a conversation about the 2024 season that needs to be had.
Mm-hmm. Secondary?
No.
Oh, single digits.
Single-digit guys, okay? How many single-digit guys have played up to what their single-digit number is and what it means?
Number 9. Number 9.
Well, Ty Robinson. Ty Robinson's a stud. Yeah. Okay, and he's getting deflated. But the single-digit guys haven't been what they're supposed to be on a consistent basis.
Yeah, consistency would be the key word there.
And I just think they're pampered down there, and they're pros now. They're getting paid. And that guy from Texas was so full of. I almost called in because I'm like, no, number one, you're not a booster. There is a big booster from Burke, or at least he could be, but that wasn't him. That I know. And so this thought that we're not paying NIL like Ohio State is, or probably Oregon, or Michigan, or Penn State, probably Texas, obviously, some of the Southeast schools, but we're paying enough. We're paying enough.
Yes, they are.
Mm-hmm. We're paying enough to beat UCLA, and we're paying enough to beat Wisconsin and Iowa. We have more money. The support is crazy. So talk me into going to the Wisconsin game, because right now,
it's senior day, Doug.
Here, Doug. This is the way I would look at it: is you don't have another home football game that matters until next September. And we're going to be saying, man, it'd be great to go to Memorial Stadium in January, February, even with the season that has kind of unfolded here in the back half. I think you only get so many opportunities to watch college football and so many opportunities to watch it in person. So if you don't want to go, that's fine. I'm not telling you how to be a fan. I'm just saying that, we don't get a lot of these. And if you want to vote with your absence, go ahead. The head coach is not getting fired, but it's okay to have some angst. I don't know. It's still Nebraska, Wisconsin. Nebraska still has a chance to become bowl eligible and beat a team that, along with Iowa, they've beaten Nebraska. Nebraska has beaten Iowa and Wisconsin one time since 2014. And you never know. And let's be honest, because of what just happened yesterday in Madison, Doug, you have no idea what you're going to get.
Right.
You have two guys that are calling. You got two guys that were calling plays that have to change their business card from 2 weeks ago.
That's true, and people have been saying, and I this has been said a lot. It seems like the fans care. I watched the hugs after the game and all that stuff, and I'm not saying you be a poor sport and just sulk off to the thing, but I saw some smiles with those handshakes and that kind of thing, and I just don't see the care that matches. And here's my last comment.
You want people to be angry. You want players and fans to be angry.
You want first half.
Right?
You want first half
Well,
Nebraska.
yeah, the fans are now. Joe's going to call this morning, and Fred Sunshine, which is going to be Joe. I'm calling you out. Let's hear from you now.
Nice.
But here's something that I'm trying to. I'm pretty good at math and banking, right? So if there's 75,000 in the Coliseum and there's 15,000 Nebraska fans, how could it seem like a home game? And yes, I know our fans cheer harder than the other team. Believe me, I know, because I'm one of them. But that math doesn't make sense to me. I had to be more than either. It was more than 15,000.
I think it was 20.
Or 20.
I think
yeah,
it was
20,000.
20,000.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
like I said, I'll probably get over it by Friday, and I'll suck myself into wasting another Saturday down there and then being pissed off afterwards. But that's the part where you're just like, we have every reason to think we should beat Wisconsin. Exactly, losing their offensive coordinator. But we won't. We won't, because this team does not know how to win. And there's too many players on this team that we keep trotting out there and expecting the results to change.
Yep. Doug, thanks for the phone call. You got to go from being old and clunky to new, fast, and swaggy.
Yeah.
That's what 2025 is all about.
New, fast,
Let's
and
talk about
swaggy.
the NIL real quick.
Okay.
Because Nebraska's NIL is in a good spot. But let's also have reality here. Nebraska has made some poor decisions on who they've spent money on. Their money to spend has nothing to do with me. But if I'm a booster and I donate a lot to 1890 and I know exactly what player that's going to, well, you don't know exactly, but you're like,
you know the
what?
priorities.
I'm a business guy, return on investment, not so good.
Yeah.
Nebraska's NIL is in a good spot, okay? But Nebraska isn't getting anywhere unless, and they are doing this. So Rule is a great January to August guy. Okay, he's exactly what Nebraska needed to be good in January to August.
Yeah, that's fair.
Nebraska football, however, needs a guy that is good from September to December. Okay, that's the dynamic here of the guy that's currently in charge. Needs to be all-encompassing. Okay, he needs to be a 12-month guy. But right now, he's done a good job January to August. I need the guy that coaches football to be exceptional September to December. He's taken care of one part, the systematic thing. Now he's got to take care of the part that means the most, and that's about the dubs and the L's and progress and all of that stuff and hope and optimism. But Nebraska is a program that still will be built on high school recruiting. Get them in, get them up, get them out. Get them all out to the NFL. So that's why this next stretch about accumulating dudes, and then in a society and in a sport where now you got to win fast, and you haven't necessarily, you're not going to be a place that's getting banger after banger out of the portal that are difference makers. They're more guys that, they weren't welcome at their previous stop, or they're just looking for a Nebraska bump. So you got to be able to do that. But Nebraska's NIL is in a good spot. And Dylan is the only guy that makes more than 250.
Yeah.
That is incorrect, because I know somebody, because I know his father, his son, who is working his way up through the depth chart. Before people put two and two together, this person has been in the program for multiple years. They are paid pretty well with NIL.
Yeah.
Okay. They are taken care of, and they make more than $250K.
Yeah. And I don't doubt that for a moment. And when I think about the talent valuation, the personnel issue that Nebraska has, I don't ever think of, well, they're not spending enough with NIL. The thing that people also need to realize, because I think that then there's the opposite end of the spectrum of what one gentleman called in on Saturday and talked about, of not doing enough with NIL. But then I think there's also the extreme opposite, where people are like, well, we'll just go out and buy them. We should be able to get anybody we want.
What makes you have any confidence that Nebraska knows how to spend money?
Exactly.
They had it's back-to-back years, quarterback and wide receiver. And Nebraska has to go out and get 2 more big-time wide receivers in the offseason. Okay?
And better than C-plus guys.
And I don't know if you've looked. There are going to be a lot of people that are looking in the portal. Okay?
Yep.
So you got to be smart in the portal. And just because you have a lot of money doesn't mean you're necessarily going to win.
Oh, exactly.
So that's why at a place like Nebraska,
Florida State
it's important to be the high school, recruit them, get them in, get them up, get them out. Now, they're going to be in a transition because they're going to go from old and clunky to still pretty young next year.
Yeah.
But it'll be new and, I don't know, faster.
Sleek.
Well, here's the other thing about this all NIL, where Nebraska is at. It is so friggin' crazy to me. And I'm not a psychologist, okay? I've never been to a psychologist. I went to a marriage counselor once. I pulled the string after 5 minutes because I said, this is a waste of $200 for an hour. Does that seem like a good going rate? I feel like I was getting screwed back then.
Yeah, I think you were.
Okay.
You made
were you in surge pricing?
I have no idea. She had this little cottage that we went to. We sat on a couch, and I'm like...
And you're in the trust tree
I'm like,
with the nest?
This is a waste of my time. Is the fact that Nebraska football, and it's not a Rule thing, it's been a Frost thing, it's been a Riley thing, it's been a Bo thing, that this program cannot be comfortable being uncomfortable, and that they have no ability to battle with adversity.
Yep.
And the mental part that limits whether an old guy or a young guy from doing their friggin' job on a Saturday and having discipline on what they're taught and what their abilities are and whatever that roadblock is the most confusing thing that has put Nebraska football in the last 8 years as one of the worst Power 4 football programs. You can't make that up. And I did cuss right there, but Jimmy cut it out. Just kidding. The depths of suffering you had never thought possible have happened with Nebraska football. A lot of it is self-inflicted.
Yeah.
But the thing that stands in their way is the most mysterious thing to me, is that we've gone class after class after class, that they can't battle with adversity and embrace adversity and turn it into a positive instead of a negative. Because I'm guessing that everybody out there, when Nebraska got the ball back and you're like, man, Sierra Wright has been writing the script. This is great. Nebraska's going to rally. We're going to be dancing. We're going to go to overtime. You know what? Woo! Wolfgang Puck and me going to be hanging out after the game. I'm guessing that 99.4% of you, and there is the 6%ers, 0.6%ers of you out there, they were like, I know how this is going to end. I've seen this script before. That's that's what coaches have been dealing with.
Yeah.
Now, they've got to be better at their job, and they got to be better at talent accumulation. But the fact that this rolls over year after year after year, and it's all a mental thing, damn, it's time to get to where it's a physical thing, where we either got dudes or we don't got dudes, and they either on Saturday, they know how to win or they don't know how to win. They make the plays to win. It's not, well, here we go again, don't know how to win. And maybe this is the first time, sorry, I'm on a little rant here. This is the first time where you are going to wash out some guys that are a little bit older that have not been able to cross the rainbow bridge from losing to winning.
They're dogs?
Got scared for us. I was about to go home.
Rainbow Bridge?
Like, wait, what do you know that I don't know?
There I'm done.
So to just give you an example
of
what
pet owners out there, I shouldn't have said rainbow bridge.
Man, come on.
Taking the rest of the week off now.
This is the example. So we're getting ready to go on Big Red Overreaction. We're watching that last drive. Schreiner and I and Joey are all sitting in here, and we are all taking bets on how the drive will end. That had nothing to do with the touchdown. We're like, okay,
we're sickos.
We were, and this is, I know it was like a bodily function. It wasn't like we were really reaching into the grab bag to try to figure this thing out and try to be hot take guy. It was just natural instinct of, all right, we were kind of laughing about it, of how's this going to end? It will be a turnover. We'll just be on downs. Will they just throw an incompletion? What's going to happen? And then I kept telling John, now remember, they still got to get the 2-point conversion too. So if they have one successful play to get in the end zone, they got to follow that up again. So there was that reluctance, and I know everybody felt that. But it's true. People want to say that this is the old Frost players. You're right, though. This goes beyond that. Maybe that's the best way to put it, that this program refuses to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations. And I think from a philosophical standpoint is if you're having the belief in the system, whether you need to make a stop defensively, you need to make a play offensively, or heaven forbid you need a special teams play as well, that the belief in the system comes from the results. That during that game and during the games leading up to that game, you've had enough to draw from that have been successful of if we're going to be in this type of yardage to get a score. Say we're starting on the opponent's 35 or the opponent's 25. Man, we've done that a lot. Or we get a break and we're in plus territory. Man, we've been really good there. Where you have enough of that to draw from that you get into those moments of a last-second drive. I mean, it's been since 2019 since Nebraska's had the ball to end a game, and that was a Northwestern game.
He just woke up. He's like, "Let me get you my list."
Yeah, I mean that's the last one though, right? That's the Lane McCallum one.
I tell you, it's the depths of suffering you never thought were possible.
Right.
You see what you two just did? Sean tweets at us. Is that what we're doing on senior day? Are we going to be putting some guys down?
I wouldn't use those exact words, but kind of.
That's what we've come to.
Hey, just think about this.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for your efforts here. But
if you're a senior at the University of Nebraska Lincoln, and trust me, you have seen plenty of one-score games in your college career.
Too many.
If you are a senior at the University of Nebraska and you are on the 4-year plan, not the Gary Sharp 7-year plan,
the COVID plan. Come on.
People don't realize that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how long you're in college. It's all about the experience. But if you've been there for 4 years, the last time Nebraska football went to a bowl game, you were halfway through your 8th grade year.
Yeah.
Okay. So part of the old man Doug's question and a previous caller is you are in danger of losing multiple generations that are just like, not worth it. They haven't won in my lifetime. I can find something else to do. I mean, that's the very precarious road you walk when you are not having success, but there is such a huge emotional and financial investment into your product.
Well, and I don't even want to assume when we had caller Tony earlier saying he doesn't think it makes him a bad fan. He thinks it's a good business decision. I don't want to assume his age, but I assume he's probably more around our age. Yeah. So you're starting to get the guys that, like us, that were alive, that could comprehend the magnitude of a program that just always had the answer. No matter who the opponent was, no matter how the game was playing out, they always had the answer, and they were going to come through. There was none of that, oh gosh, woe is me. There was none of that. You're getting to a generation. So now you're getting that group that is losing interest, that doesn't feel the same type of commitment because of what they see has been unrecognizable for so long in those moments. But also a young generation that has had to hear from people like you and me and their fathers and their grandfathers about how great it was. But when you don't experience it for so long, you just wonder, are you ever going to experience it?
All right. Good news. Daniel Jones has been benched with the Giants. Bad news.
You know what that means, though? Pop and lock. Pop and lock, baby. Yeah. Let's go, Drew Lock.
Can't wait. Cowboys, Giants, Thanksgiving Day.
DeVito's actually going to start.
Oh, DeVito is?
So we get the agent.
We're not getting Pop and Lock?
Not yet.
Come on.
All right, Scott, Tim, stay right there. We got a lot of emails to roll through as well. We're here till 10. Belly up to the bar. I'm the bartender. I'll listen to you. I got a little 4-6's vodka for you. If you watched Yellowstone last night, I'm not going to go any further. I won't spoil anything.
6s.
That's Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
A rivalry day is Friday, November 22nd. Y'all know what I'm talking about, right? Creighton takes on in-state rival Nebraska, and men's and women's basketball. Coverage starts in the morning with us and through the Connor Happer Show. The women's pregame starts at 3:45 p.m. Yeah, we're going to be courtside, guys. Between games, there will be, well, Gary will be in Akron. Between games, there will be post-game, pre-game shows directly followed by the men's game at 7 o'clock, all on 1620 The Zone.
Zach writes into the Equitable Bank inbox. Nebraska isn't losing my son's generation. They've already lost them. I have to basically force my 12-year-old son to sit down and watch games with me because he doesn't care at all, because he's seen this team be garbage. John says the time for young and new was 3 games ago, but it has to start this week. The poison of losing mentality must be purged from the team. I wonder why the hesitation to not insert younger defensive backs like Prude, Sanders, Benning, even a Donovan Jones.
And it sounded like we're getting close to that.
I wonder if we will see that this weekend.
Yeah. The secondary is a conversation right there.
I think it's a conversation that we wanted to think it would be a strength, but there was part of us, or at least me, that was like, and the transition from Evan Cooper and the timing of the arrival of John Butler also is also a factor.
I think you're right.
Shane writes in, to quote the Joker from the 1989 Batman, this team needs an enema.
This town needs an enema.
Shane also says, we are the Dallas Cowboys of college football, spend a lot on with no return.
The Huskers are better than the Cowboys.
Guys ever had an enema?
No, not yet.
No.
I think I was good with the hernia check. Like when you go to take a physical, like when I was getting ready for the play
cough
backup guard for Urbandale.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, turn your head and cough.
Cough, yeah.
And like you get stuck for the first time when you're like 16 with a female doctor, and you're like,
oh, with that. And did you ever have to be told to cough again because you just completely half-assed it? You just went, like, nope. No, I need you to really cough.
Nope.
Yeah, I did.
Say, when someone's got my life in their hands, I give it a cough.
That's actually a good point there. Yeah.
Jimmy, you didn't answer the question. You ever had an enema?
No, not that I can recall, although I'm always looking for new and fun things to do. So
45.
Long as I don't have to leave the couch.
Getting that colon check.
Jake writes in, latest standings in total wins this century. No change from last game. Looks like Bo will still lead until at least 2015. Pelini 67, Solich 37, Riley 19, Frost 16, Rule 10, Joseph 3. Isn't Matt Rule's record in one-score games at Nebraska, the winning percentage is now below Frost?
Yep.
That is not easy to do. Not easy to do. Nicholas writes in, This is a question that will permeate over the last 2 games and then into the offseason. Can we talk about Fedoni? How many times do we have to watch him get a screen pass in the flat and get taken down by the first defender?
Yep.
And on the last drive, the lack of awareness, get up and celebrate a first down instead of getting the ball back to the official to get lined up right away. That is from Nick.
Mm-hmm. That's a funny that's brought up because I was having this conversation with John before we went on the air on Saturday I don't know what Thomas Fedoni is.
The wheels are not, I don't think you're going to ever get back pre-injury. He looks, so that's part of, even though he's not old. Well, I guess he's kind of old. He's been in the program for a while. He's part of the old and clunky part of Nebraska football. And I just don't think you'll get that explosiveness back.
Yes. And that's the key word, explosiveness there, because there was a time, and even this season, that I was one of the advocates of, if you get him in space, and not necessarily in the horizontal passing game, but if you get him in space, that he is going to be a weapon compared to a lot of tight ends in that conference, that he's going to be able to make guys miss. There's going to be favorable matchups that he can exploit. But when they do get him the ball out there, how many times is he making guys miss?
Yeah, maybe the biggest mismatch for Nebraska's offense against defense in terms of pass catchers was used more on Saturday in Bonner.
Mm-hmm.
They need more. Nebraska needs more athletes like Bonner. They need more mentality like Sierra Wright. And they need the mentality that Nebraska had in the first half. When Nebraska got agitated by what happened at midfield.
Yep.
And so you look at their energy level, and there were guys that were like hit stickers, and they're like, I'm gonna run my mouth with you, and I'm gonna make a play. And then that disappeared in the second half.
Yes.
They also need, in terms of in it to win it, I'm in your face. I'm showing you how, I'm showing you my goods. This is a blank measuring contest, and I got a bigger one.
Mm-hmm.
They need the quarterback to do that. He's only had it once recently, and that was against Ohio State, where he had some swag, and he was like, he wasn't as casual.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you ever make him an alpha, but I tell you what, they need to find the mentality across the board like Sierra Wright. Sierra Wright's a dude. Sierra Wright goes and makes plays. He's a hit sticker. He runs it. And you know what? He goes out there and he balls out.
Yeah.
They don't have enough of those guys. Now, they do, but they don't play as much, and there's some younger guys. They they need – Nebraska actually needs more guys that you're afraid of.
Yes.
Like if you met them in a dark alley, you're not winning that. Nebraska's way too friggin' nice the way they construct their roster and the way they play football. I don't care. And I'm not saying get a bunch of thugs. Okay, I'm just saying when you are between the lines, because some of those guys that have that mentality, when they're away from the football field, nicest guys in the world, and they just change. When they get on the football field, they change.
Yeah,
They've got a different mentality.
Yes.
That is their paycheck. That is the bread on their table, and they're not going to let anybody steal it.
Yeah,
they don't have enough of those guys. They don't have enough of that play in and play out mentality of just flat out hit stickers on offense or defense.
Yeah, the crazy mean streak that you'd like to see collectively, because you're right. The first half, and I think I even tweeted about this when they got the personal foul. That was a carryover from what happened in pregame. But you could tell all phases, but especially the defense, they're playing the piss and vinegar. I mean, they had an ass kicking mentality to them as far as the way that they were getting to the football and finishing off plays. Now, unfortunately, one of those was out of bounds, but still, you're trying to send a little bit of a message, and the amount of trash talking that was going on between it, I actually thought was a welcome sight. I thought that was great.
And I
to
also
see.
thought, Nick, it wasn't false bravado.
No, it wasn't. No, they were legitimately pissed off.
It was bravado that was real, not, hey, watch us in the next two games. We're ready to
We're
explode.
supposed to act like this because that's what people want from us. But no, this was absolutely
one more
authentic.
email from Bob. No, wait a minute. This is from Jeff. Sorry, Bob. I'll read your email, but this is from Jeff. Jeff writes in, any thoughts on Raiola's 1 yard short of first down slide? I know he was hurt, but showed me something about his willingness to sacrifice himself for the team.
Okay, out of all of the things that I think people are going to be openly critical of that I think is fair, this is the one area that I'm still going to chalk up as inexperience. For a guy who doesn't run a lot, maybe not even realizing once you start to break down the slide, that's where you're going to be down as opposed to where you wind up. I don't know how much that's emphasized to him. I'm willing to say maybe he doesn't realize that.
He may have so much stuff in his head where they don't turn the ball over, don't get hurt. I don't want to get hit.
Yeah, you can't get it.
There's probably going to be a deeper dive. This is, the discussion this morning has been about NIL. Is incorporating a big-time star with NIL into a roster that hasn't had that before, and he's only a freshman. And then you don't play up to that, what the reaction is. This might be the first time in the NIL era where Nebraska has a big-time player that gets big-time money that hasn't lived up to the billing, but maybe has been put ahead of the team at times by comments. So it's just natural reaction to be like, what are we doing here?
Yep.
I wonder if that's a dynamic that Rule is going to have to figure out in the offseason and in the future when they bring more young players into the program that are going to demand or command a high dollar amount. All right, to the phones we go. Here is Scott. Good morning, Scott. Welcome to Mornings with Sharp and Handley.
Gentlemen, thanks for taking my call. I'm going to drop you a little potpourri this morning, but I hearken back to the days of I was thinking about this over the weekend, and you got Dylan Raiola, who obviously you can see the measurables, the height, the weight, the arm strength, you got everything. But he maybe just chalk it up to maybe young. Good Lord, I hope it's because he's young. But I just don't see the moxie of like a guy remember Joe Gans came in for Sam Keller? Didn't have the measurables, didn't have anything a coach wanted, but the dude just went out and balled and went out and he had the moxie. Now, I'm hoping that it comes with age, but some of that stuff's just internal. All right, get to a couple more parts of my potpourri. Is the NSAA going to change the Class A trophy this year? I think it should say NSAAU, because I am so sick of Millard South and West Side. They can both go pound sand. Stay in your own lane. Get your own kids. Don't poach everybody else's. And then the last thing I got, love me some Larry Martin. Great coach. Yes. Great guy at Omaha North. Boy, if you're a Husker coach, get down to Lincoln and go find you a Darian Jones, because that kid can flat out ball.
Scott, I saw North play 3 times in person this year on TV, and I'm with you. Darian Jones, his stock is going to blow up in the offseason. Yep. Scott, thanks for the phone call. That's Donovan Jones, younger brother.
Is he just is he a freshman or sophomore?
He's junior.
Junior, okay.
Do you think that Tony White's son, who is going to be a baller, will be recruited
by Nebraska?
I think he's an 8th grader.
Yeah.
All I hear about is his son Anthony. Anthony the third is a hell of a football player. Is this going to be a Tuioti?
Oh yeah, Tony Tuioti. Yeah, because he was Lincoln Southwest.
Yeah,
right?
And his son was a really good player, and then
is now at
then
Oregon.
he decided to leave and go to Oregon.
Yeah,
for some weird reason.
I don't know why.
But Tony White's son's a pretty good player. Here is Tim. Good morning, Tim.
Good morning, guys. Thanks for taking my call. Mm-hmm. Quick question I had. The last time I remember seeing the Nebraska team have the strength and the confidence to come from behind was Pelini. They had the season, I think the Big Ten championship season, they played Wisconsin. But that year, I think they came from behind 4 times. Can you tell me what that team had that these teams for the last 10 years haven't had? Thanks.
Well, first of all, there was a little bit of a running game there. You had a running quarterback there named Taylor. Defense was good. Defense was good that year. They were talking about the Big Ten championship season, right? Or, I'm sorry, Big Ten championship appearance season. They came from behind in other games after that, though. Because that Wisconsin game was early in the year at home. That was the Alphabet uniform game against Joel Stavi. But Michigan State, they had to come from behind. Mm-hmm. Penn State, did they have to come from behind in that one, too?
Michigan State had come back? We're talking about 12,
that was
right?
the one. I just brought up the Michigan State one, but there was a couple other ones that they had to come from behind in. But yeah, I mean, to his point of that season alone, that was a team that, they knew they had to win out, and they did to get to the Big Ten championship game. But the way that roster was constructed, you had a couple wide receivers there. You had a running quarterback that really couldn't throw the ball all that well. And you had a running back, too. I mean, you had a running game as well. So, I mean, there were different things. Big Ten was a lot different then, too. But, I mean, I understand the point he's
making. Didn't he have a coach that was an effort guy?
Yeah, he was.
I don't care. I don't care about any else. It's all about us.
Yeah.
And that the team matched the coach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there was a little bit. There was what we were just discussing about that first half of the USC-Nebraska game of guys that had a mean streak to them, guys that had an edge to them, and it was authentic. Like you said, it wasn't manufactured. Nebraska had that against Colorado. That people could say how they were supposed to act in that game. They didn't care because they were feeling that all the way back in February. Okay, so you had that edge. And that's still continues to be maybe my biggest source of frustration is when you show it once, you know that it's in you. When you show that ability to play like that it's in you. Why you can't tap into that week in and week out is the bigger problem.
Great question, Nick. You'd make a lot of money if you could figure that out.
Like,
maybe $9 million.
Does a team just have to go full ham in disrespect mode on you to actually have that type of edge? Have that type of, we don't give a blank, we're going to punch them in the mouth all game.
Need some game changers that when the game's on the line, they make plays.
That helps.
All right. Quick break. We'll come back. Dave, stay right there. Dave has told us that he's 77. I can't wait to talk to him. We'll talk to Ben Audie after the top of the hour from the BA Coaches Show, Evan Bland, Jacob Bigelow as well on a Reaction Monday ahead of Wisconsin. I've labeled it, it's the can't get over the hump game, but it is Nebraska's second Super Bowl of the season.
The first one went well.
It did. I'm going to be the lone person on 1620 that thinks Nebraska will get to 6.
I already said on Saturday I don't. So.
Nebraska will get to 6. I won't do a victory lap, and I also won't admit it if it doesn't happen.
I'm wrong a lot, too, and I like that. I would love that.
No, you're not supposed to say that out loud. You're supposed to say I'm always right.
If I'm always right, I'm going to really piss people off. Like, God, then why am I even watching on Saturday?
We're back with more Mornings with Sharp and Handley at 1620 The Zone. Yeah. All right, welcome back in. Let's wrap up the hour. Dave has been so kind to hold. As we mentioned, Dave is 77. Dave, the floor is yours. Welcome to Mornings with Sharp and Handley.
Yeah, this is Dave from Sarasota.
Oh, yes.
I remember when Devaney came in the early 60s, we were losing Glassford. We were terrible. And he came and they turned it around in one season. Now, I realize this is not the same atmosphere that we had in the early 60s, but it can be done.
Oh, I mean, how you go about constructing your roster, this past year, Indiana may force teams or athletic directors to say, if Indiana did it, how come you can't? But you have to stick to your process as long as possible. If your process is build the roster and, recruit through high school, and that's the way you're more comfortable with, you have to stick with it. But people have run out of patience. You know that, Dave. I mean, Dave, you've been around for a long time. You've been a fan. It's tough to preach patience in a society where more teams are winning faster, and you have become the bottom of the Power Four group. Dave, thanks for the phone call. Beautiful Sarasota took a hit during the hurricane, but if you ever get a chance to go down there, it's a good place to visit during the winter, see all the other snowbirds that are down there.
Thank
you.
Well, I've never been to Sarasota.
Beautiful area.
I'm
Baltimore
take
Oriole spring training.
Yeah.
Ed Smith Stadium. Not the greatest neighborhood.
They have some really nice golf courses at Sarasota.
They do.
That's what I thought.
They do. They have some beautiful Siesta Key is a good place to go.
Okay.
You and your wife go there. A little extra honeymoon.
I think the in-laws are going to Florida instead of Arizona this year. So maybe there's going to be a weekend down there.
Florida is back, baby.
Yeah. And I know we have time. We'll get further into this. Maybe this is a good discussion with Ben Adi too. But I'm just reading something from our buddy PVF, old Pyro Vito Fireworks, about just the overall function, the operation on the sideline compared to the lead up and what is said and everything. And this is the one thing that I would say about when Matt Rule speaks. When Matt Rule always seems like he has a good read of what people are either concerned about or what they want to hear from the coach about. And I always think he does a good job of anticipating that. There's always something though with when you seem to hit the right notes verbally to either the public or to your team, when you don't have the results that follow that up, at what point does that just become not only white noise, but does it become even more excruciating to hear? I mean, we went through this a lot with Scott Frost. When we heard Scott Frost talking about, oh man, great practice. You're like, all right, cool, man. They're prepared. Mm-hmm. And then you saw something Saturday that looked completely the opposite. And you would still hear that. You're like, man, you are tone deaf. Even if you just witnessed the very best practice in your professional opinion, don't say it anymore. Just don't say it anymore. I think right now for Matt Rule, and I'm curious if just less is more to finish off the season. I don't think he has that in him. I think he always wants to talk things through and talk it out. I think it helps him as well. But I know I saw what Pyro was talking about, and we heard a little bit of that on Saturday of enough of the sermons. It's time to just see the results.
Results matter.
Mm-hmm.
Ben Adi joins us next on 1620 The Zone. All right, welcome back in on a Monday morning where we contemplate, would we like Justin Herbert more if he actually had better facial hair? It's a question I pondered last night watching the Bengals and the Chargers.
He does have some very different facial features. We'll just say that. Some very, very smooth facial features that make him look less rugged. Less rugged. That's the way I'll describe it.
Should we also have a discussion about Jim Harbaugh being one of the best coaches in America behind Andy Reid?
I got to admit, I loved when he just goes, "What a great win!" in the post. That's how he opens up the post-game presser.
He's making $16 million.
Yeah.
Your Bears are going to be in the neighborhood for a new coach. I don't think the McCaskies will pay $16 million for a head coach.
Should have hired him.
No. Here's what they would do.
How much will Mike Vrabel take?
They would do that for an up-and-comer, Gary. They'd do that for a guy that maybe was third on most people's list. Like, hey, he seems like a good yes guy and a nice guy.
So
we like those people.
End of the year, things get a little quirky in the college football world. Nebraska is going to be playing Wisconsin, and they fired Phil Longo yesterday. I would think that the delay of game on the final possession was the final straw, but I don't expect a major change in what Wisconsin looks like. They've had injuries. They've had poor quarterback play. Now, their defense will make it interesting on Saturday. That could be a 15-14 game again.
Yes.
Remember that a couple years ago?
Yes, and I expect it.
So Iowa was off this week. Iowa has Maryland on, isn't that a Friday night game out in College Park?
Mm-hmm.
And then they play Nebraska, of course, on Black Friday. Matt Zenitz, who writes for CBS Sports, is reporting that Brendan Sullivan, who has started the last two games for Iowa, is expected to miss the rest of the regular season due to an ankle injury. He's the first to report this. I've not seen any of the Iowa reporters confirm this. They were off, so they don't have media availability
They actually,
until tomorrow.
They play the Saturday game. Purdue and Michigan State are this Friday. That's what it is.
But Matt Zenitz of CBS Sports is reporting that Brendan Sullivan is out for the rest of the year. Anybody want to change their opinion?
No.
Nebraska's going to get to 6? Come on.
Yeah, because quarterback play has been such a big part of what Iowa does.
Come on. Just come.
Is Caleb Johnson okay?
Come to the safe space.
Caleb Johnson okay?
Who?
Caleb Johnson.
Let's welcome in from the BA Coaches Show, our Monday guest to break it all down, make sense of everything that's going on. Ben Otte, good morning.
Good morning. How are you guys doing?
We're doing wonderful. How about yourself?
I'm not doing too bad. Saturday kind of sucked, but I feel fine now.
Okay. How'd you get over it?
Just realized that this team's just not very good. My expectations were too high.
Just like that. Is there a certain drink involved?
It's either that or sit and ponder about it for the rest of my life. I kind of just got to get over it, I guess.
Yeah, life's too short for that.
So there's a lot to unpack in what you just said, and I'm a bartender more than a psychologist. They don't pay the same, I've been told. But do you think, and we're gonna go a couple of different ways here in discussing USC and then what's ahead for the next two. Is you looked at that game on Saturday and little tweaks on offense where I thought there was more of a sense of purpose and being in a zone with offensive play calling, but there were times where plays were there that had to be made by players. Did Saturday's game do anything to validate Matt Rule's discussion about we just got to have players make plays? Did it further that? Did it further validate him, or did you go, that seems like a cop out, coach?
Well, I kind of felt like it was a cop out, but after seeing the game, I kind of feel a little bit more towards his way. In my opinion, I actually thought for the most part the receivers played better.
I did
Dylan
too.
Missed a couple open guys,
just a little bit.
Jamal Banks had a good game. Yeah.
He missed Banks. That would have been wide open. I thought Banks had a good game. But yeah, I agree. I think a lot of these is players just got to go out and make plays. I think it was last week or the week before. I didn't love that answer. And to be honest with you, I still don't love that answer. I'm not saying he's wrong. I just don't necessarily love throwing that out there publicly. But hey, maybe it's a challenge to the guys, and hopefully they can respond to it. But I definitely do think there's something there.
Okay, so Ben, I want to go to the scoring drive that ends with Emmett Johnson on the mesh route, gets the touchdown pass. That drive alone, I think, was one of the better drives we've seen Nebraska have, probably going all the way back to, I don't know, maybe the Colorado game, at least going back to September. And we just brought him up. one guy in that drive essentially was just day and night as far as what Jamal Banks did. Had a huge third down reception, but also two, and there might have been another one where he was involved in, but two that I remember, two key blocks on the perimeter. So my question is, and what I think largely was a better night for him in blocking, is this, what in your opinion changes? Because they seem like he was in a similar position, one-on-one battles that he's been in, that he just doesn't get to or can't maintain the guy long enough to where that guy is out of the play. What changed? What, in your opinion, is it more of the position they put him in? Is it the plays that they were running, or was it just the fact that he just finally just manned up and said, I'm going to win this one-on-one battle?
In my opinion, one-on-one perimeter blocking is a huge part of want to and drive. And hey, I'm going to beat you up. It's one-on-one. It's, a little fight here. I'm going to beat you. I'm making it my mission to beat you. So although there probably was some little tweaks, what I really think, and honestly what I kind of hoped happened, was that after all these bad games on film, I hope that maybe it's a new OC change, maybe it is what it is. They're able to say, look, if you can't make these plays, you cannot be on the field. Because, in my opinion, that's something that should have been happening all season. Just because it's not like we're beating anybody over the top. Sometimes you can forgive some perimeter blocking mess ups when it's like, hey, we got to keep this guy on the field, just keep the defense guessing, right? We just haven't had that this year, basically out of any receiver. So I think that it was a big mentality change, but maybe it was some sort of schematic thing. To me, I kind of agree with you. It seems to be similar positions, one-on-one battles. That's why I tend to think that he just decided to kind of man up and take care of business. And I was happy with it. If we get that Jamal Banks, I'll be good the rest of the way.
Ben Oddie joining us. So let's talk about the quarterback, because that's a Dylan's got to make some plays. He's got to make the whether it be a pass to Banks. I think he looked more comfortable with the tempo of the offense, the ball coming out quicker. What Nick was alluding to, we had a crossing route. Well, last time you saw Nebraska run a crossing route
slants
for a touchdown.
Slants, Gary, slants.
But let me ask you, Ben, because Dylan Raiola is a discussion, because he's for Nebraska's sake, he needs to be more of a playmaker. Has he not been right since the miss with Lindenmeyer in the Illinois game?
That's a very good point. I hadn't really thought about it like that, but that probably is the turning point of where you would look at of where things have gone drastically downhill. That is a good point, because you look at the overtime of that game, and that was completely broken. Yeah, he's definitely looked completely far off. I did think, I agree with you that he looked more comfortable on Saturday, and that I can tell, in my opinion, that had a lot to do with the OC change. I felt like, for the most part, on a lot of those plays, his reads were very easy, and that's just Air Raid 101. Air Raid 101 isn't necessarily just throwing the ball 100 times. It's going to be making life super easy on the quarterback. And I think we saw that with some of the slants routes, the mesh play that we ran for the touchdown. I think a lot of the reads were good. Where we saw struggles with Dylan still were when some of these longer developing plays where he's going to have to make a read or two that are a little bit more difficult, of reading a high safety or whatever. That's kind of where we saw some of the issues of where we were missing open receivers. So I think what's going to be, and I'm struggling to figure out how we figure this out in the next two games, because clearly maybe with Dana being in there that it can make a difference. He's only been in there a couple weeks or whatever, but I have a hard time trying to figure out how we magically get this magic back that we had for about the first month of the season until that miss passed.
I want to get you. Oh, no, sorry, go ahead.
No. I was just saying it's going to be really important to see, I guess. I hate to already be thinking about the offseason, I guess, but it's like we got to figure that out, because if he's going to be the player that we want and need him to be in the future, we got to be able to see open guys downfield and be a playmaker.
And we thought, speaking of playmakers, if Holgorsen in a couple of weeks being able to get familiar with this personnel and look at the pros and cons, and are they putting guys on the field that need to be there, especially in key moments, Gary and I have been talking about it. We talked a little bit about this Saturday on Big Red Overreaction, too, of the one guy who stood out more so than he has all year because he hasn't, quite frankly, been used a lot is Janiran Bonner. So when you see the way he's used, what first of all, what did you think about just the concepts that they had him involved in and what you think that overall impact could look like here in the next couple of weeks with a big-bodied guy that now has experience, has a fullback, a tight end, and a wide receiver?
I love the way that we used him on Saturday. That was something that, honestly, as I'm watching it unfold, I'm kind of like, why hasn't this been done more the whole
I was right there with you. Right there with you.
That's kind of where I'm at is like, and I'll admit, like, he's not on, like, my biggest radar of guys. And I really like him. I really love him as a player. I really do. But as I'm seeing some of these concepts unfold and getting him the ball, my first thought is, like, where has this been the whole season? This is great. So I do expect him to keep getting in the fold. I could just, in my opinion, from watching that game, I could tell you right away, Dana really likes what he sees there. Dana Holgerson sees something there in practice or on film or whatever, and he really likes him because to get him from basically very little involvement to getting him the ball in the ways that we did, I definitely think that Dana very much likes him and wants to get him the ball. And something that I think that will be a little bit of a change from Dana Holgerson from Satterfield, and something that I very much believe in is sometimes it's not about, all these different concepts you can do. It's like, hey, we need to get our best players the ball. And that's something, and we can be creative on how we get those players the ball, but it's about the Jimmies and Joes, not the X's and O's sometimes. And that's what I think that we're going to see a lot more is the guys that Dana likes. We're going to find creative ways to get them the ball.
What were your thoughts on the clock management on the last drive?
You just got a dude there.
Okay. You guys know, I've said this a lot on you guys know, you guys can back me up. I'm a huge Matt Rule fan. I very much love the guy. I have to say, the clock management and timeout management this year has just absolutely baffled me. He references, the book says we need to do this. I would love to see this book that gets referenced sometime, just because
True.
Everything that I've seen seemed to learn throughout my young coaching career. I'm a lot younger than Matt Rule, but I've never learned a lot of these things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Saturday had a couple great examples of that, of me just being baffled and I just don't quite understand it sometimes. Just seems very disorganized at times. Nothing upsets me more than just wasted timeouts. That's just something that bothers me at any level of football. Like even high school level football, I get angry at wasted timeout. So I feel like we do that. The whole fake punt, that would seem very disorganized to me.
I agree.
I know he answered it in the way that, he probably, I don't know. I still think it was a very weird, disorganized way. And the biggest thing that I've kind of thought about through the last, I guess couple days since the game is I've thought, like, have we walked away from a game in the Matt Rule era and been like, our coaching staff won us that game? I say no. It's always been, in my opinion, it's always been the opposite of like, hey, there's been these coaching decisions that probably lost us that game. And that sucks because, like I said, you guys know I'm a huge Matt Rule fan, but the timeout and clock management absolutely baffles me. The first half situation with the whole runoff thing, I still think that was weird. I think that if because I see the situation of people saying like, oh, here we're trying to set up a block, trying to set up to block the kick. My counter to that would be is if you block the punt and you don't score on that, don't you still want time to go score again?
Yeah.
That's just my kind of, I guess, pushback to that. But it seems like overall this year and last year, the clock management has just been, I can't even say, it's just been baffling to me. I just don't understand it.
Ben, defensively, and we obviously got to have that conversation too, very, very reminiscent, in my opinion, of almost a combination of the Maryland and Wisconsin game of a year ago, where Nebraska couldn't get off the field. You saw some moments where they were able to either get a turnover, do some good things, but the numbers and then the third down conversions in key moments still loomed large in this one. Gary and I were talking about it. It was essentially one play, basically a counter play that USC could run over and over and over and over again. You're watching that. You're seeing where the defense is and where they unfortunately aren't. in trying to fit that. What is that something that we've seen a lot, or was just USC being able to exploit that just because they had a little bit better of a running back and some guys up front that were able to push some guys out?
I feel that this defense right now is very boom or bust, as in they're going to get a turnover, they're going to end up with a big sack, or, they're going to end up with a 3-and-out, or they're going to not be able to get off the field and give up a touchdown. I was not happy at all with the way that USC was able to just continuously just run the ball and gash us with basically, like you said, the same play.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, I also feel like schematically, we didn't do a great job helping ourselves either. And Tony White is, I think, a really good defensive coach. But I say this with as much respect in the world. Don't take this as a slight toward anybody. But what the heck is Malcolm Hartzog doing covering a 6'5" receiver?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
they haven't
I'm
haven't
not
done a
trying
good
to be
job of
jerk,
hiding
but
him all year. They can't leave him on an island.
Right.
Yes, why he's on the outside on an island, like you said, is baffling to me. So I don't think we're helping ourselves at all. And yeah, it's just so after the Rutgers game, I was very praiseful of the defensive staff on how they seem to be. That game was won in the film study. They adjusted well. They had a great game plan. I think the last month has been kind of the opposite. Outside of, I guess, Ohio State, they played well against Ohio State. They, didn't get off the field, but hey, if you're going to hold Ohio State to what we held them to, then that's going to be fine. But I think the other 3 games in this losing streak here have just kind of been, just not been very good defensively. We just can't get off the field. And I don't know if that's something that's going on during the week, because it seems like teams are able to come out right away and move the ball. I know we stopped USC a couple times, but in the first half, they kind of moved the ball a bit. And then the teams are adjusting very well to us throughout the last few weeks. And I know that teams are showing new wrinkles because of a bye week, but it's like, hey man, that's kind of your job as coaches to adjust, So I've not been thrilled with the defensive effort. Obviously the offense is probably maybe a bigger issue because of how we're not able to score a ton of points, but I think the defense is not quite the unit that we thought they were.
Is that because they changed defenses in the offseason? More quarters coverage?
I think so.
Less attacking?
I think so. That's something that I can't remember if I've ever mentioned it on here. I'm sure I've probably mentioned it in passing. I've not been a fan of that. At times this year, it seemed to work good that we ran a lot more quarters in cover 2. But in my opinion, like that's not what got us, a great unit last year. And I understand maybe the philosophy of wanting to change it, but also I don't know. I'm very interested to see that if we don't make the DB coaching change, if that still happens. And the reason I say that is because when you look at what John Butler came from, he came from a lot of cover 2 quarters coverage, right? That's just a lot of the defenses that he's ran. So I wonder, I wonder when the plan was to switch to that, if that makes sense. Because a big problem that we're having in the system right now is there seems to be a very lack of communication in the defensive backs, which is how you end up with wide open receivers. Seems like there was 1 or 2 plays in particular that it seemed like everyone was running zone except for 1 or 2 guys that were covered up on their man. So the lack of communication, I think, is setting up these big receivers. But to answer your question, I do not love the change that we made. And I do wonder when that decision was made to change.
Quarterback but quarterback regression from Dylan. It's been evident, and we know having a bit of a back thing also doesn't help the process. But as you know, Ben, there is, and it started on Saturday. Hell, it started probably at some point during the game, that there is more of a call to see more Heinrich Haarberg. What do you feel the volume, if you even feel there's a volume at all of Heinrich Haarberg, what do you think that should or could look like to benefit this offense?
I have been under the opinion for a few weeks now, mostly from the beginning of the season, of how I thought he could be used. I'm not saying that Haarberg should be starting. What I am saying is I think he should be in there 15 to 20 plays a game, getting a good chunk of play, not like in a row, but like, mix him in there 3 or 4 plays here, whatever. It gives a different element to the offense. If there is a little bit of a hurt from Dylan, it saves him some hits maybe. And he is, to me, Harburg is such a, he's not like explosive game breaking, but he's such a dynamic player and changes the offense a bit that defense has to at least key in on him somewhat, right? I think that's why we've seen some of the things of him just being in the game, even if he's just kind of a decoy. I would love to see him. I mean, I can't figure out why he comes in the game. We gain, like, I don't know, what, 12 yards or 15 yards, whatever it was, and then he's just gone again. You know, like, to me, he could just be such a dynamic kind of change up there to keep defenses on their toes, just adding elements to his game that we don't see from Dylan. And that's just the type of player he is. And I have seen a lot more sentiment of get him to start, let him play. I'm not quite sure if I'm there. Maybe I'll look back at the end of the season and say maybe. I don't know. I think that just depends on how the last two games go, I guess. But I definitely am under the opinion he should be playing a lot more than what he is. I think what frustrates me is we've talked about it on here before about how the words that are said at press conferences don't always match the play on the field. Is Matt Rule has also said he wants to see him on the field more.
Yeah.
And it's not happening. So that's my frustration a little bit.
Ben, as always, we appreciate the insight. Have a great week breaking down USC and ahead of Super Bowl II on Saturday against Wisconsin.
Yes, you guys as well. I will look forward to speaking to you guys next week. And hopefully for the first time in over a month, we're happy.
I hope so. I hope so. Thanks, Ben. Do we need – everybody's talking about Dylan. I'm worried he's going to transfer. Should we have a discussion about Harburg? Because I'm here to tell you, they made a change at OC for the current quarterback.
Right.
If they were going to sit Dylan in for any moment of time, that would have happened about a month ago to let him get a feel for the game. Yeah. So I clamor for more red zone Heinrich Harburg.
I do too, yeah.
And I think maybe you see that with a tweak this week. But if Harburg wants to play football, his path to playing football at Nebraska is complicated.
Very much so.
Do we need to talk about Harburg maybe would be interested in going somewhere else? Because he's not going to be the starting quarterback here.
No.
They brought Dana Holgerson in for Dylan Raiola. Dana Holgerson has put 6 quarterbacks in the NFL. Nebraska has a guy that could be an NFL quarterback that is going to have a monster offseason.
Mm-hmm.
They're not making a change.
No,
but Harburg has shown that he has made vast improvement. I would think he wants to play. Would that even be something that people would be like, oh, I wonder if he'll go somewhere where maybe he gets a better chance to start? Because it's not going to happen here.
Yeah,
I don't think he just wants to be a gadget guy or a package guy.
And is this one of those examples? And maybe we haven't had this example as much or talk about it as much of the guy who, you know what, being at Nebraska means more to him than just any other prospect.
Nick, we got too many of those guys that are in the Nebraska football program. It's like, great, man, GBR, man. I grew up wanting to be a Husker. You know what? Yeah. I get to eat at the training table. I get to have some gear. You know what? It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, rosters are getting shrunk. Yes. Unfortunately, I don't mean to be harsh.
No, it's true.
But that's you got to look in the mirror.
I agree.
And he's a great guy to have in the program because he's not going to upset the apple cart, so to speak.
Yeah.
But I think the guy wants to play, and I just don't see a path to him playing more than what he's playing now down the road with the pairing of the OC and the current quarterback.
Yeah, and if all goes south, I think going forward into next year, if all goes south, I don't think it'd be Harburg they're going to. It's Danny Kaelin.
I might have to start focusing more on how is Danny Kaelin look in his development.
Absolutely.
All right. Here is Scott, who was holding through our chat with Ben. Thank you, Scott. Welcome to the show from Hayes, Kansas.
Hey, good morning, Gary, Nick. Thrilled to get through. Just want to let you know I listen every morning at 6 a.m. And on days where I don't listen to you, I listen to the recorded version on the podcast. So appreciate the show.
Appreciate you, Scott.
But, hey, real quick, just want to ask you, I listened to the Big Red Overreaction, and I about fell out over my chair. And I think Nick can remember this too. There was a fellow that called in that had cancer.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I don't laugh but what he said, yes.
And it's just, he said that going through that was easier than watching the Huskers the last 10 years.
3 times.
And even referenced betting a remaining member of his bodily organ that he still had. That's very personal.
Yeah.
And whatnot. So whole point of bringing that up, I'll turn 50 in February. I remember the 90s, remember when things were good and everything, but how much of a leash does Rule and his crew get? Because, if we keep extending out, well, if he can't do it, no one can do it. He just needs more time, right? That takes 3 to 6 years. And a whole generation's grown up not knowing the team to be very darn good. and that's a problem. And you've got Signetti, you've got Dion. Dion's 7-2. Jeff Monken is 9-0. Has his team in the ACC Conference Championship game. They're number 1 in the nation in rushing offense, and their defense leads the nation in more than at least in the top 5 in a few aspects there. And people thought Monken would not be a good fit here. Well, statistics don't lie, and Monken's getting it done where he's at, and that's at Army with much less resources. And I think they would beat us if we went head to head. I know it's just kind of frustrating. So I just curious, what kind of leash do you see Rule getting if we don't win, if we don't get to 6 games this year? What should that leash be? So I want to thank you. I'll just listen offline, and you guys keep up the good work.
Appreciate it, Scott.
Yeah. So we had a caller on Saturday. We had a lot of activity of different perspectives, and this guy was a 3-time cancer survivor, and
good on him.
And that was the first thing I said was, God bless you, man. And he immediately interrupted. He goes, well, but you got to listen here. I'm like, okay, yeah, you've earned the floor, my man. And he said exactly what Scott brought up there. He said going through chemo was easier than watching this football team play. And that the stream blew up as far as, oh my gosh, does that just put Nebraska football in context right there? And he did. He said the few remaining things that he has, he would bet that they don't make a bowl game. I mean, and that's why I said you asked about the tone on Saturday. It was frustration, but I just don't think it was 4 quarters of Nebraska versus USC. This was 4 quarters and 4+ years of going through this. 21, which was so excruciating because of the amount of close calls that you had against good teams. I mean, we've done this exercise many times that it came down that way. But what we've discussed both on and off the air today is everyone's confidence level when Nebraska got the ball back and a chance to tie the game. That if you took a straw poll of just 20 random people, that most likely 20 people would have said what we've all said, and that is, how are they going to screw this one up? Or how is this going to end not in the end zone?
You think the head coach believes that they can win those games?
No.
Evan Bland, the World Herald, joins us next on 1620 The Zone. All right, 2 games to go for Nebraska. Wisconsin at 2:30 on Saturday, and then Black Friday in the evening in Iowa City. Wisconsin has made an OC change, and it sounds like Sullivan is out for the rest of the year at quarterback at Iowa. The football gods are saying, here you go. Here you go. Don't screw it up. Just get to 6. We get to Evan Bland of the Omaha World Herald back from Los Angeles. Good morning.
Morning, guys.
How was the experience? Not necessarily in Los Angeles, where I'm sure you guys were like, man, I thought Omaha traffic was bad. How was the whole game day experience surrounding the Coliseum and the amount of Nebraska fans that were there?
It was really cool. I had not been to the LA Coliseum before, and I would put it pretty high up personally of the new Big Ten venues. Like if you're ranking them just on experience, I mean, the sight line for game day is unbelievable. I mean, you have the Hollywood sign in the distance and downtown LA and the mountain range, and it was a gorgeous day. I was struck by how the Coliseum, I thought, had a really good balance of like, hey, this is an historic venue, and you can feel the history and kind of the past things that have occurred there, but it was also very modern. I mean, it was kept up well, and I mean, the escalators going in, and the press box was modern, and the seats had chair backs for the fans. A wide array of concessions and things. So like, it was a fun venue to be in out there, and Nebraska fans took it over, which was, I don't know if that was shocking at all, but they certainly were the louder team, and there were these moments when the Trojans PA people are saying, "Let's go Trojans," and you can hear Huskers drowning out the word Trojans, and so it's just it was really really a neat stage, I think, for Nebraska to be on, and it was a helmet game and all the rest, and so if Nebraska had won that game, I think that's a moment certainly that those players would have cherished as sort of a breakthrough spot. It didn't happen, but I still think the venue and the setting is right near the top of this new Big Ten situation that we're all in.
Now, almost everything, right? Because the press conference quarters were not necessarily ideal. Was it you that Matt Rule waited on, though?
Apparently,
yeah. I thought I heard him say, "Oh, Evan, I'm going to wait for Evan." I'm like, damn, Evan, you are like that's 5-star status right there, my man.
Well, I don't know. Typically, I don't sit in on the post game pressers that much because I'm trying to talk with players that are coming out to the side, and so like I did poke my head in there, and typically, nobody cares if I'm poking my head in there. But Matt Rule spotted me. He's like, "Oh, should we wait?" I'm like, "Well, I'm going to listen to it on the stream while I'm out here." But thanks, Coach. I do appreciate that.
As we were waiting for the press conference to open up, I was going to text you like, "Evan, get your ass in there so we can start this press conference."
I will say, getting down to the field, there were some issues in this one. Sometimes you have security guards that take their job very seriously, and maybe are not correctly informed as to certain credentials that allow you to certain places. So there was some of that going on too. But it's cool. Like Nebraska, when you have a Nebraska post game, like it's so streamlined at home with the media room and their side stuff, on the practice field, that it's kind of it feels like a throwback when you go on the road, and it's all very makeshift, and you have the plastic tent up, and there's just the one tunnel that comes in and out of the Coliseum that both teams share, and so it's very congested, and you got service vehicles going around, and players are coming out and grabbing food, and hey, should I talk? And it's like it's very chaotic, but it's chaotic in like an organic kind of throwback way. So I appreciate when they go on the road, just because you're working through so much in the moment. But I thought there were some good post game thoughts for sure, and obviously the results one that they're very familiar with. So they got 2 games here to try to change the narrative.
So this question, you can go a bunch of different ways, but what does the 5-5 record say about this team?
Well, I mean, the old saying, like, you are what your record says you are. Like, I think that's pretty true for what Nebraska is. Like, you've got these moments where they show that there's some potential and some talent there. When you think of the first half against Colorado, or much of the Ohio State game or the second half against Purdue. And then you have these other moments or games where it's just not coming together. Maybe the tackling isn't very crisp, or the offense isn't moving it, or you're getting every field goal you take blocked or whatever. I just think that's kind of where Nebraska is right now. I think it's also a reflection of where the Big Ten is right now. Like, man, you look at the standings and you get beyond Oregon and Indiana, and like it's just this massive middle class from like teams 3 or 4 all the way down to like 15 or 16. And so, I think you're gonna win some, you're gonna lose some. It's less about talent, I think, and more about just all the little stuff. One play here or there, a decision, an injury, clock management. Like that's kind of what it is. And Nebraska's, had their moments where they've come through and others where they haven't. And at this point, you just kind of are what you are. So I think it's certainly a reflection of where Nebraska is as a program. But I also, again, think like it's just, there's no such thing as an easy week in the Big Ten right now, unless maybe you're playing Purdue. And so it's hard. It's hard to win games. It's hard to be consistent. And I think Nebraska's feeling that, especially at this point in November.
Evan, as you are gathered with the fellow media members, when Nebraska gets the football, trying to tie that game up and send it into overtime, I'm curious the discussion, what your thoughts were personally of how this thing might go. And was there something during the game offensively that maybe you noticed a little bit of a Holgorsen imprint on it or whatever, that there was a matchup or a certain thing you wanted to see Nebraska do that gave you confidence? Or did you feel like a lot of us, where we've seen this before, we know the inevitable, it's going to end without Nebraska getting in the end zone?
It did feel inevitable. I'm not gonna lie. Like, you get down into that last spot. They made it farther down the field than I maybe thought that they would. Like, they had a chance into the end zone, and certainly there was, as Dylan Morella said, a lot of cloth on that last play. But you got to score it. You still need the conversion, and then you need to exercise your overtime demons after that to win the thing. So there was still a lot, even if Nebraska got it into the end zone, that had to go right for them to finish that thing off. But I'll give you an example, like, for my own thought. Like, we were talking with Ty Robinson afterward, and like, it kind of felt like going through the motions on my end a little bit, where you're like, hey, what went wrong in this one? And like, he was like emotional, like upset about it. And it just kind of brought me back, like, golly, for a fan or for us in the media who've watched it for a long time, like it feels very routine, almost expected. But like, even someone who's been in the program for 6 years, like Robinson, like it still just kills him every week. Like, all that you put into it, you build yourself up, you game plan, you sacrifice a social life and all these other things to get ready to do this thing, and it doesn't happen. Kind of reminds me of a speech that Ben Stilley gave a few years ago at Purdue, when he was just boiling over with frustration. Like, I'm giving up so much to be here and to do this, and the results just continue to not come. So I think it puts Nebraska in an interesting spot emotionally for these last 2 games, where you're on this 4-game losing streak. Now you've got a team in Wisconsin you haven't beaten in more than a decade. So like, where is this team's head in terms of confidence? Offensively, you're working through a new system, and I thought there were some good tweaks there, but it still kind of is what it is. And so, how do you bring all that together to perform well on Saturday, on a senior day, when so many of these guys came back for this moment? They came back to get to a bowl game. They came back to get the program over the hump into the next, the next tier of success, I guess, in college football. Like, this is that chance for them. And so, they've come out and been upset before, and it hasn't really gotten them a ton. Maybe this is the week that turns around, but I think that's the big challenge. Is, man, you gotta use these results, as familiar and frustrating as they are, maybe in a different way, to come out and turn it around on Saturday.
Hey, listening to Ty, and I mean, there's a guy, because there has been this separation of the old against the new, and you got to get the old guys out of here because they don't know how to win. And I'm looking at a guy like Ty Robinson, Evan, who has balled out all season long. Like, of guys that were good coming into the year that had to be even better, he's like number one on that list. And he's an absolute stud. And he might be the best player in the program right now, but he's an old guy. And people are like, get that guy out of here. He hasn't won. It seemed like he was kind of deflated after the game, watching the video as he was answering questions. And he's been great with all of us. Like, what's the reaction to him? Because he wants one more game. He doesn't want to walk out of here with never going to a bowl game, but yet he has been the guy that has balled out. How does this program find more Ty Robinsons or develop more Ty Robinsons?
Yeah, I mean, there's no obvious replacement for him or Nash Huntmaker next year at this point. I mean, and they could find some linemen in the portal. They could develop some of these guys. But I mean, if you think about his recruiting battle way back when, like, he was the guy out of Arizona that Scott Frost sent the entire staff down to. I mean, they burned an entire day down there. They gave him the full court press to get him to commit and beat out some of the bigger schools. But like, his story is unique. Like, that's the exception, I think, and not the rule. When you talk about a guy who's that talented, who sticks around for 6 years, who could have gone the NFL and probably been on, at worst, a practice squad last year, but decided to come back. Like, you don't get those opportunities very often. I think that's one of the real frustrating parts about where Nebraska is right now, is like, you had those veterans come back and it really just felt like, wow, this is your chance. Because especially in this era of the portal and of COVID, like, I think you're seeing it across sports, the emphasis on, hey, you got to get old and stay old and find a way to have that experience, because you just can't in this time. You can't, in this time and era that we're in, you can't afford to let a bunch of freshmen grow up for 2 or 3 years. You just can't do it. And so I think there's this sense of, to this point at least, opportunity missed with Robinson and Huntmaker. And I thought his comments afterward were really pretty insightful when he said, hey, my message for these last 2 games is, I'm going to be selfish. Like, I've been here forever. I want to go to a bowl game. I don't want to end like so many of these senior classes before me have ended. So let's turn it around. And so, like, if younger guys can rally around, hey, let's do it for Ty and for, Tommy Hill and Javen Wright and Isaac Gifford and so many other guys, if that's what it takes, then great. Like, that's the button that you need to push. So for those guys, you're now past the point of like, hey, let's get better and let's grow and let's, whatever. Like, this is no longer a multi-year rebuild. This is right now. Like, you do it now. This is why they came back. We'll see if they can get it done.
I want to get your thoughts at the first part of this game that you really saw maybe the Dana Holgorsen impact, or what looked different to you, and whether formation, players, however, where did you see maybe the first example of that?
Well, I think you saw it with some personnel usage for sure. I mean, we saw more Emmett Johnson than we'd seen all year. We talk about his carries and his catches. We saw a little more Janarin Bonner, with what he did. I think that qualified as a career high game for him. They spread it around with the tight ends a little bit more. So Fedoni wasn't really all that involved, but they got Lindenmeyer and Borkature each had a catch. And then, I think we saw the tempo pick up a little bit. And as Matt Rule said afterwards, one of the things that Holgorsen saw during his 2 weeks in the lead up to the game was like Nebraska needed to get the ball out quicker from the hand of Dylan Raiola. And so you saw some quick hitters. You saw, the players said it afterwards, you saw some simplified game plans. So like, I thought that touchdown pass to Emmett Johnson was kind of an embodiment of all that, where like Raiola comes back, he waits like a second and a half, and then he just puts it in the hands of Emmett Johnson, who makes a guy miss, and he scores. Like, I think that's kind of what they were going for, is to try to simplify things. Now, like, the end result isn't what Nebraska is looking for. Matt Rule said, hey, let's get 10 to 15 more points a game. Well, I mean, they didn't come close to that. They had the one offensive touchdown. I mean, 10 of their points came because of the pick six and then the short field goal. So there's still a lot to work through, but maybe the old adage of like, hey, a team improves the most from game 1 to game 2. Maybe that applies when you make a midseason coordinator change. So I guess we'll see. They have some more film to look at. I did think the The plays seemed to come in quicker, like they weren't running down the play clock, kind of looking around and confused and that sort of thing. So I think generally speaking, it was a successful transition just when you talk about the mechanics of the game. But yeah, little tweaks with personnel, but I didn't think there was anything necessarily drastically different from what they had done previously.
Does Nebraska become bowl eligible in the next 2 weeks?
If you had to bet, I mean, I would say no. I mean, just based on how things are going, this is the game to me. Like the Wisconsin game is the one where, I mean, I talk about a team like in an almost identical spot to Nebraska now. 5 games, you just made a change at OC. They just, Wisconsin just had their Nebraska at Ohio State game where you came close to the upset. It didn't happen. And so was that your last, your last chance, your last rise up, or was that maybe a sign of something more? So I do think these last 2 games are going to be like Big Ten West throwbacks, where it might be the first team to 20 wins these games, given the offensive struggles and the caliber of the defenses that are involved. But man, like there's not a ton of mystique left, like in the Big Ten, in terms of like the psychological hold one team has on another. But it does seem like Wisconsin is still that team. I mean, we've seen a bad Wisconsin team come into Lincoln 2 years ago and win a game by a point that didn't seem like they were going to do it. So, you hate to. I just have a hard time projecting Nebraska to win a game like that, to get the monkey off their back until they do it, because it's been so long, so many November losses, so many times coming up short when you're stuck at 5 wins. So maybe they do it, and if they do it, it'll be a surprise, and I think it'll be a time of relief, maybe more than anything at Nebraska. But it's really hard to predict that or project that, even though Vegas does have them as favorites this week. So we'll see.
Evan, as always, we appreciate it. We'll see you Saturday.
Thanks, guys. See ya.
The Fickle versus Rule Bowl, 12-11 against 10-12. They were going to turn the West Division upside down with 2 big-time hires.
And be well-positioned in the new Big Ten as well.
Boy, wouldn't you like to be a fly on the wall when those two shake hands and meet at midfield? Let's have an honest discussion.
You think it's just going to be like you good, man? You good? You good?
One's 12-11, the other is 10-12.
Yeah, both now with new offensive coordinators.
That is true. All right, quick break. We'll come back, put a wrap on this hour. Jacob Bigelow will join us next. We'll dive into some basketball. Of course, Nebraska Creighton, end of the week. Friday's a big day for the Skurs and the Jays.
And then the next day.
Everybody gets together and you're rooting for the same thing.
Yeah.
It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone. All right, so news out of Evanston this morning. A bold new vision for college football. Ryan Field is going to open in 2026, 35,000 seats. Will be the only college football stadium with adjacent ice skating rink. $850 million sports and entertainment venue will be utilized year-round with more than 200,000 square feet of parks and plazas surrounding the stadium. Now, they basically took the photos of the Nebraska Northwestern game in Dublin, and that's the game that's going on the field.
Yeah.
Stadium looks very unique. Perfect, 35,000. And Nebraska plays there in 2027. I would like Nebraska to play at Wrigley Field.
I wonder
that was a cool look. That was a really cool look.
Other than the dudes that were
Going
standing
into
in front of the camera.
Yeah. And
most of the game.
You get a little bit of that going on. And you do have to sometimes worry about the close proximity on a big play where you can't slow down and you might go right into the wall.
I would rather have the Nebraska at Wrigley Field than playing at New Ryan Field. Think about that. 35,000 seats. Usually when Nebraska plays at Northwestern, there is a ton of red, more red than purple. How many tickets will be available to Nebraska fans?
Yeah.
Or in the future, Iowa or Ohio State fans, because Ohio State overtook Wrigley Field, and Iowa always draws well there. But man, this stadium, it's
perfect
for a program for Northwestern. It's going to be the smallest capacity, but it seems perfect. 35,000.
And then you're able to limit what actually comes in from the opposition.
You're closer to the field.
Yep.
As much as I want Wrigley Field, and I still want Wrigley Field, I think this is a bucket list for 27 to get to this game in this stadium, but those tickets are going to be hard to come by.
Isn't it cool, though? You mentioned how they're using basically the stock images from the Aer Lingus Classic, that this stadium actually looks a lot like that. Or the new renderings, it looks like a soccer pitch. It looks like something that you would see in Europe that they would use for, I mean, it essentially does. It has that open area concept, but it kind of domes over a little bit over the bowl. So what you see a lot, I think that's what you saw at Viva Stadium too. So I don't know if they just fell in love with that stadium. Like, hey, that's what we need. Just a smaller capacity version of that.
So they are boasting better than TV sightlines and far closer views in the worst seat than the most expensive seat at the big house.
Okay. Look at that. Going after some of their rivals there too. Yeah, I think it's going to be, it's fantastic for them. And if you look at that facility on top of what we've all completely gushed over with their practice facility right off Lake Michigan, where it looks like you're literally on top of Lake Michigan. When it comes to the arms race of facilities, Northwestern they're throwing their hat in the ring pretty well here, because now you've got both. And Ryan Field's just a dump. Old Ryan Field was just an absolute dump. And then it's smack dab in the middle of a neighborhood. So trying to get in and out was always weird.
Now the location hasn't changed. It's still the same. It'll be on, because they've completely torn it down. They're just building it up.
But having at least that to go to, as opposed to a field where, again, if you're playing, and the only time I was there twice was when Nebraska was playing, essentially is the home game for them as well. This is something that I think they can be pretty excited about, pretty proud of. I would be curious the overall amount of tickets that they will have for the opposition, because you do something like this at that capacity. Clearly, you're trying to lean into our alumni base, our fan base, trusting and hoping that they will fill the majority of the stadium, even against teams like Nebraska, Ohio State, Michigan, and with the very well-known traveling fan bases, Penn State fans, that they can still have at least the majority of the stadium in purple and black. So, but it does look cool. I always thought the renderings when they were coming up with this was very cool, but yes, very soccer stadium-like, very much so.
Nebraska will play there in 27. We'll play a game with Skinny Biggs. Jacob Bigelow joins us next on 1620 The Zone. Oh, great selection. How friggin' great is Geddy Lee?
Yes. Biggs is our Monday warrior.
Yeah.
He joins us now, Jacob Bigelow. Good morning.
Hello, boys. How are we doing on this fun Monday? Fine, in the terms of it's just another Monday, but it's rainy and crummy and everyone's in a bad mood. But how are we doing?
You just answered your own question.
Yeah, also, it sounds like you have been up for a little bit.
Yeah.
Instead of
How
getting
much-
up 5 minutes
how
before
much
you
coffee
join us.
have you had?
A little nose candy.
Oh,
No,
I'm just gonna say
Whoa.
coffee or something. Maybe a Holgerson Red Bull.
Have you ever done cocaine?
We're starting off hot, huh? No, shame on me for being awake and not.
I said shame on me for
having
not
half
doing
a
it.
sleep.
Have you ever
Shame on me, I guess.
Have you ever tried any illicit drugs? We're in a safe space.
Are we sure?
Might help your brand. Might help your brand.
The brand could use some help. Yeah, I don't know. Let me talk to my people first, and then we can discuss this at a later date.
All right. Well, we'll talk a little football. We'll talk a lot more basketball. Did you watch Friday night Paul versus Tyson?
Absolutely not. No.
Okay. Whoa.
No.
Look at you. You're a fine American.
Absolutely
that is not one
because
of the 60 million households.
Because of Netflix, or you had already made that decision before?
I made that executive decision. If I'd used my full executive decision, I would have gone across the river to Council Bluffs and put money on Paul by decision, because that would have been the freest free money in a very long time. But no, I was not going to watch the WWE equivalent of boxing on Friday, and it turns out there was some really good college basketball going on that night too that kind of had my attention more than that spectacle that happened down at Gerald World.
Yeah, how about that was a good night on Friday. John Tanji from Omaha Central scored 41 for Wisconsin.
Yeah, I mean that was.
Think he'll get booed at PBA?
Who knows? I can't wait for that discourse again, because he was. Actually, I think Nebraska goes to Madison. I don't think Wisconsin comes here. I think the two Southern California schools come here, and then Michigan State and Wisconsin do not. So that is the split on the local guys in the league coming back. That game was not the easiest to watch. 87 free throws in a 40-minute basketball game is not really the most aesthetically pleasing, but still really cool for me to see John do that, and knowing his journey from Central to CSU and the stops in between. That was cool for me to see.
Real quickly on football too, and it was funny we brought up the Paul Tyson fight and the buffering on Netflix that was taking place. It was trending actually too, the buffering. Would you say that this football program has been buffering for a while?
As long as I can remember, it sure feels like it. I think I definitely fall into the demographic of people who, I'm in the role I'm in, so I'm watching it a little different now than when I was younger. But I think my age group, my demographic, definitely falls into the group of. I'm sure there's plenty of people wondering, like, why like just why with the Nebraska football and in general. I mean, it's definitely it's felt that way as long as I can remember.
Do you think this team is cursed? Do you think this program is cursed?
I just my mindset. I don't believe in things like that. I mean, it sure as hell does feel like it if you believe in curses and voodoo and that sort of thing. More power to you. But I mean, I just it's Groundhog Day on steroids. That's what it feels like. I didn't watch the entirety of the game on Saturday because I was I was elsewhere. I snuck into a small town Missouri sports bar to watch the end of the game. But it just feels. I mean, I just don't know how much longer the people around the program, the people who do it full time, the fans who continue to pay money to go on the road, and we saw plenty of the look at all these Nebraska fan tweets over the weekend. Like people are. I mean, that shouldn't be a surprise to anyone anymore, and it'll be a surprise when it stops happening. And that goes for fans in the stands on the road and fans in the stands in Lincoln. That would be when it's a surprise, is when, people aren't, when that's not a main talking point of a trip on the road, is look at all these Nebraska fans.
That's a good discussion to have, and maybe even for a later date. But if I throw out this hypothetical that Nebraska, say they don't win another game, they go 5-7, you're getting into the offseason, you're looking at the schedule ahead, you're thinking about some of the road games, but also even your Memorial Stadium Saturdays. Are we close, Jacob, in your opinion? Are we close to losing some of those things? Are we close to seeing a noticeable drop in attendance to where all of a sudden you can't put out a sellout streak? Or is this just, again, more of the same where they know Nebraska fans are the most loyal and they will still return? Are we getting to that breaking point?
I mean, it's tough to say. I don't think we're close to it, but I mean, I think that would be the first. I mean, that would be the first actual sign of legitimate panic that has nothing to do with the product on the field and the product in the walls of I almost said North Stadium, but I guess of the Osborne Legacy Complex now. I think that would be one of the first existential things that would lead to actual questions, aside from the product on the field and what goes on during the week. I don't think we're close to that, but I mean, for full reference, I'm 27. I was born in 97. I was, 6 months old for the Orange Bowl, with,
so you remember
with Tennessee. Yeah, no, I remember it vividly. Right.
Okay,
So
you can stop.
Everything. That's just full. Everything since then, and my view of Nebraska football has been, it has not been particularly enjoyable, whether it be growing up my 4.5 years as a student at that university, or since I have graduated and gone into what I'm doing now. It has not been particularly enjoyable from any point of view.
Well, we are at different depths of despair around here, because let me just rattle off some numbers. So the last decade, Nebraska's been in 61 score games. They are 16-44. Nebraska hasn't been in a bowl game in 8 years. During that stretch, they played 48 one-score games. They've gone 11-37. I was telling Nick this earlier. If you're a senior at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln and you are on the 4-year plan, you have watched 26 one-score games, and Nebraska is 4-22. 7 of those one-score losses would have clinched a bowl game. And the last time Nebraska was in a bowl game, you were in the middle of your 8th grade year. That's tough. That's you try explaining that to people that don't follow Nebraska football but know of our pain here.
Yeah.
And you go, what the geez, man, would you like a drink?
On me. Many.
Let's talk some basketball, shall we?
Sure.
St. Mary's a good team. They've been a good team. They're not on the level of Gonzaga, but Randy Bennett is kind of a hard ass, and he recruits, and so he gets some dudes, and they try and disrupt the mid-major life. So that's a good team Nebraska played yesterday, but it seemed like the way the game unfolded, to fall behind, slow start, scratch your head. Bryce goes to the bench, trouble for Nebraska, fell behind but battled back, got a chance at the end of the game. With the little opportunities that are on the non-con, that seemed like a missed opportunity for Nebraska yesterday. Is that weird to say against a good opponent?
Oh, it was definitely a missed opportunity, and Fred Hoiberg didn't say as much, but I think I could kind of tell. I mean, he was not happy in the in the post game. We heard from him and Bryce Williams, and I think it kind of felt like he knew the opportunity that was there, and that atmosphere. It was 98.5% Nebraska fans. It was they had that crowd behind them, and that's a very good team. St. Mary's, like you said, they were a 5 seed in the NCAA tournament last year, and Fred Hoiberg thinks this year's version of St. Mary's is better than last year, and that's even without Aiden Mahaney. I mean, that's a really good team, and that's it felt like a Big Ten game, especially in the first half. Felt like I was watching a Wednesday night Rutgers-Maryland game at the Rack, but instead I was watching Nebraska St. Mary's on a Sunday at the Pentagon. But it's something you want to learn from. You want to learn from wins, but you're going to have to learn from losses too. And unfortunately, they have that missed opportunity, and now they got to turn around, and their next game is, a game that, a lot of people in this state have circled on the calendar, regardless of how the season starts for their program.
The one part about Nebraska's offense that was clicking, I want to get your thought on this, if this is something that, hey, it just worked in that game, but this isn't something you're going to hang your hat on. But a lot of dribble drive penetration. They're getting to the rack. I mean, especially Bryce was. But the three-point shooting still leaves something to be desired. But is there, outside of Bryce, is there more athleticism than maybe originally thought? Or is that your guy, especially when it comes to trying to finish at the rim, dribble drive, and that's your offense right there? Because it was working yesterday.
Yeah, I don't know about athleticism, but I mean, I think they've got guys who are willing to, penetrate, try to, put their head down and get to the rim and either draw contact or finish. And whether that's, Bryce, I think, is your catalyst offensively, but I think Juwan Gary can do that. We saw Raleigh Worcester do it. I think, Berke, all of his points were inside at the rim, and, have a day. Berke, I'm sure we can talk about him a little more, but I mean, I think that, it's an old George Karl-ism. The coach that I worked with at Nebraska used it a lot. We've kind of heard it with this coaching staff too, is to love the rim and like the three. And they're still waiting for the water to get turned on from beyond the arc. But in the meantime, they were able to get to the basket, get to the foul line, but inevitably there's going to be games where you're getting math problems to death for trading twos on your end for threes at the other.
Yeah. So there's that. Let's talk about the final play, because Bryce Williams is the MVP of this team. I mean, last year at this time, through 4 games, he had 52 points. This year he has 75. But everybody in the 605 knew that he was going to be the guy that shot the ball, because I was looking at the other personnel on the floor. Your thoughts on Asijan was not on the floor because they wanted to make sure if Lewis missed the free throw that they were not going to give up a rebound. So Mia was on the floor, and the way it worked, you couldn't sub back in Asijan. Your thoughts on the final play that Nebraska ran that was a missed 3 by Bryce that would have tied the game and sent it to overtime?
Yeah, Fred talked about it a little bit after the game. He said that St. Mary's defended it really well, and they stuck with Bryce, and they expected someone to pop out, and it just didn't happen, and that's how they wound up with the shot that they had. And it kind of, that was my biggest question, was the season not being on the floor. It makes sense, with St. Mary's prowess on the glass, but I think you got to go full court. The personnel you've got on the floor, it kind of is a dead giveaway that you're going to get 3 playing a little bit of hero ball with, given the personnel on the floor and needing a 3. So definitely was a little bit of a head scratcher for me. And I think just about everyone, either wearing red or not, that, watched that end of that last play of the game.
You mentioned Berke. The game he had yesterday obviously was
getting better.
Yeah. And that's just, as you see him, do you feel like he's getting more comfortable just within the system? Because that was a good game, and we've seen it slowly progress to what transpired yesterday.
Definitely. I think he's getting more comfortable. I mean, people forget he was the last guy to get to campus. He was playing the Euro Cup stuff with the Turkish national team. So he got here a little late, and this is the team that is still obviously a work in progress and still getting used to one another. But I think he's the one that's the furthest behind and getting used to one another. But I mean, I think, Fred Hoiberg and the staff remain really high on Berke. They've waxed almost poetic about him since he got here, whether that be at Media Day, the flashes that he's shown, and they think he can be a legitimate, weapon for this team. And he only has the 1 made 3 on the year, but I mean, the threes aren't falling for just about everyone else, so it's not just him. But I think that he definitely fits the mold of that point forward, playmaker in the Fred Hoiberg offense. And I'm interested to see, he continues to get more comfortable and get better, what he could contribute to this team going
forward.
Am
I off to listen to Fred after the game? And he said, we learn from wins, we learn from losses. Some of the other things he said, that he knows what's coming Friday night, and they can't have what happened last year to get blown out by 29. I mean, I think he's still trying to figure out his team, Jacob. I can't imagine they're going to play that many guys, that many minutes moving forward. So we're into week 3 of the college basketball season. But your thoughts on the way Nebraska looked, and that might have been one of their better games on yesterday in Sioux Falls. Now what's ahead of them, a 4-0 Creighton team that has gotten better every game and is playing better defensively through 4. Your thoughts on Friday night?
Yeah, I think I kind of got that sense too that they know what's coming next, and if yesterday wasn't the first time that a lot of people tune in to watch Nebraska, Friday night will be, given the opponent and given of everything that's going into. I mean, it's a big weekend for the athletic department in Lincoln all around. But I mean, if you didn't tune in yesterday to watch Nebraska, Friday night will probably be the first time. And after the way last year went, they've got a 5-day layoff, to prepare for it this year. They had a week-long layoff last year, and we saw how that went, at PBA. And I think they know. I mean, they know the pressure that's going to be there. They know the narratives that are going to come out of it if it is indeed ugly, and if it goes the way that I'm sure many expect it to go. How that could, the narrative and the talk that could surround this team if Friday goes south quickly.
What's the most intriguing area of this matchup, just the way you've seen both these teams play out right now? Because I was talking about the lack of athleticism for Nebraska, but Creighton, despite losing your best player and 2 really good scores in Trey and in Baylor, pretty athletic, especially in transition. Where do you see, if Nebraska's to keep this thing respectable to the tune that they would actually have any type of shot, where would that be?
I mean, it's the prerogative. It's the top of the scouting report anytime you play Creighton, but it's transition defense and rebounding. And I think the defensive end in general for Nebraska is still, I know 3-point shooting is, the main talking point, but the defense is still where I have the most questions, I think, because they're sticking with the no middle, force baseline, double the post, and then, scramble out to shooters. And it's worked a couple times over the last couple of years to perfection, like Purdue, like Creighton 2 years ago in Omaha. Yeah. But I think with the personnel they have this year, when Braxton Mia's on the floor, that defense does not fit, and it does not look good. And I think the post players are going to have their work cut out for them regardless, with number 11 wearing white. I mean, I think Nebraska's going to be doubling him on every touch. They're going to start the tall lineup, and they're going to have Mia and Berke doubling him. But I mean, if their rotations aren't crisp and precise, I mean, that's how it can get ugly in a hurry. And that this Creighton team is they're faster. I think this is the fastest Creighton team that I've seen in a long time, and they can get out and go quick, spurt ability, the avalanche ability that is becomes synonymous with Greg McDermott's Creighton teams. But I think there's definitely I think the defense is going to be paramount. It's going to have to be the best it's looked this season, for Nebraska to have even a puncher's chance.
Yeah, I'm no basketball coach, but having 2 point guards and a 7'1" guy on the floor is no bueno for Nebraska basketball. We got a minute here. Do you think that Friday night at the CHI Health Center that Creighton will troll Nebraska and the halftime entertainment will be the Superstars?
That would be quite the move, honestly. Yeah. That would be quite the move, and they'd be met with raucous cheers instead of the boos that they were greeted with a year ago. It's just still weird to me that this game is this week. It feels way early. This game
should be opening night. This is how you should open college basketball, Nebraska and Creighton.
That'd be great for the narratives for both programs, wouldn't it? Opening night, that'd be fantastic. But no, this feels really weird with it being this early, and then obviously you got the doubleheader with the women's teams playing earlier that day. So it'll be cool to have the doubleheader. But yeah, this game's way earlier than my brain is used to it being.
All right, so is this radio hit at 9 a.m. But you know what? We adjust.
Hey, 9 a.m. is not early. It's not. It's not early.
Yeah, you haven't said that before. All right. Thank you, my friend. Good coverage. Look forward to the podcast and reaction to what you saw in person in Sioux Falls yesterday, and of course, what we're going to get on Friday night in downtown Omaha.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, we'll have plenty of Creighton preview stuff with some some folks that cover that program, stay tuned to the podcast, Huskers Illustrated, all that stuff,
all right,
where you can find me.
All right,
Appreciate it, guys.
Thank you, my friend.
No Shim Shims?
No, I don't think the Shim Shams
No,
ever performed at Creighton game.
Didn't we look into that, and they're not really doing anything anymore. I think the Shim Shams or something.
They've shimmy shammed out of
here.
here.
They're sham wowed out. That was lame. I'm sorry. That's all I had.
Jeez,
come on.
I only had one cup of coffee.
I used to know.
You get up at 2.
I used to know the Superstar guys really well because we'd have them come into Americal games.
Mm-hmm.
Great guys. They're based out of Louisville. I don't know the guys that are running the operation now enough to go, hey, what'd you guys think of last year when you performed at halftime in the Nebraska Creighton game? When the officials are coming off the floor and people are upset at the officials, they hate how the first half went. They're just booing everything, and then they're just clowning you guys in the suits that are trying to put on a show.
And this, what did Clammy Sosa think about it?
Wow.
What some of the what was their there's Alex Rodriguez one. What is it?
Alex
Rodriguez.
Yeah. Just give me some Myron Noodleman, some human cannonball. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't. Just give me the cheesy minor league promotions.
Jump through like a flaming hoop.
I've heard that Superstars and Red Panda do not get along because they're fighting for the same booking.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Red Panda.
Well,
iconic.
we all agreed that Red Panda's losing it a little bit?
Yeah, she's getting a little bit older.
Yeah. Her success rate is,
I will say that
dipping a little.
I've seen her work out before.
Yeah?
Yeah, she's for somebody that's in her 60s, she's in great shape.
What's her regimen?
Does a lot of deep knee bends.
Oh, okay.
Like she's
a squatter.
She's a little cock diesel.
Yeah.
I think the dress kind of hides some stuff.
She was in the
90s. She's very athletic.
Well, yeah.
But her body, I think
what the core has to go through.
We didn't have a long discussion, but I think the body's starting to break down.
You did have a discussion, didn't you?
Well, yeah.
He likes people.
It's Red Panda. It's me. It's like her handler, and it's Red Panda. Of course, I'm going to talk to her.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm going to have a discussion with Red Panda. Now she does speak English.
Okay.
She did not pull a full Otani.
Yeah,
but
she could. But she used her translator anyway.
Yeah, I mean, she was.
I think Shohei knows. Shohei can speak more.
She was very nice. But I heard Superstars and Red Panda, they are kind of butting heads. And then the Simon Says guy.
Oh,
yeah. He tries to steal some bookings.
Yeah, because he's kind of the new guy on the block, right?
Yeah.
I mean, at least as of late. So they're kind of looking at you like, who the hell are you?
Whatever happened to the Bud Light
But he's
Daredevils?
funny. The Simon Says guy's funny.
And then the no-name kids playing halftime basketball, they get in there as well.
Oh, I love that.
Like it gets very feisty too.
They used to do that a lot at the hockey games. They have like the mites would come in during the intermission. It's like one of the cutest things you ever see because they're all helmet and skates. You can't even see legs, and they're just tripping all over the place. It's hilarious. They don't do that anymore. It's upsetting.
All right, we got about 30 minutes to go. We'll get through some emails, and we'll talk to Nebraska Ball Mike when y'all return. Mornings with Sharp and Handley at 1620 The Zone. All right, Wisconsin fired Phil Longo yesterday. The dairy raid has come to an end. You'll have to go milk somewhere else.
Well done.
They're 5-5. The offense is That defense is not bad though. That defense has been okay most of the year, but they've had quarterback injuries. They hung in there with Oregon. They had some coaching decisions late. The delay of game on the final possession probably was the final straw. At least that's my opinion. Then there's other news today out of Iowa City that Brendan Sullivan is out for the year. So we will have another Nebraska-Iowa. Well, Sullivan didn't start the year because Cade McNamara, who is out with a concussion.
You're going Jake Rudock? Were you thinking of Jake Rudock for a second there?
Cade McNamara, who is out with a concussion, they think that he'll be okay. But could we have another Nebraska-Iowa game where either team, the guy that started at quarterback to begin the year, is not the starter in that game?
Yeah. It looks like it very well could be.
I mean, Nebraska's on pace, knock on wood, to have the same starting quarterback.
Yep.
For every game. Hasn't happened
That is
2017.
Remember, we all thought his history's told us anything, that there will be multiple starters at the quarterback position just because that's what's happened to Nebraska. Real quickly, Braden Locke. Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
12 of 28, 93 yards.
Wow.
I imagine they will. I imagine both teams will run the football. They will run the football a
14-10.
lot.
Somebody.
Hey, 15-14 2 years ago. Who could forget about that game?
That was cold.
I know.
Very,
had
very
to
cold.
sit down and pee for 3
It
days.
was also a game to become bowl eligible, correct?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, that was kind of a frustrating day.
Yeah.
Be warmer Saturday, about 40, 45.
Speaking
Thought they finally had
of
'em.
which, it's also Senior Day. It was reaction to some of the seniors. Well, what would the reaction be? I think Nebraska's fans are nice.
Oh, sure. They'll be like, thank you for your time.
But the enthusiasm of the clap, will you clap harder for Ty Robinson or Isaac Gifford? Now you better clap for Ty Robinson.
Yes.
You'll be polite with Isaac Gifford.
Yeah.
But you'll be like, man,
wish you had a better year.
So just think about this. This is a homework assignment for everybody. Because Nash will be honored. Guys that you thought were going to be good this year that actually were better than you thought. How deep do you go on that list? So I thought Ty Robinson would be good. I think Ty Robinson has been better.
He has been.
But can you get to double figures on that list? Guys that you thought would be good coming into the year that are better than you thought. But Eric tweets at the show. He said the last Senior Day win for Nebraska. Would you guys like to take a gander at this question? Last Senior Day win for Nebraska.
Was Michigan State a Senior Day in the snow?
That is the answer. 2,193 days ago. According to Eric, the last time Nebraska won a Senior Day, they won 9-6 against the nation's number one rush offense. Divine Azigbo in a snowstorm, and it was brutally cold that day.
It was cold, yep.
Found a way to rush for like 75 yards, and Barrett Pickering kicked 3 field goals. You remember the sight coming off the field of that game.
Holding the football up.
So Scott
in
Frost.
celebration.
That is maybe the one rare time at Nebraska where Scott Frost looked like he was enjoying the job. He walked off the field. He held the game ball high in the air. He was smiling. He had taken off his hat. People were going nuts because Nebraska was back, baby. They beat Michigan State 9-6. It was a hell of a performance by Nebraska. That was 2,193 days ago.
Wasn't Rocky Lombardi the quarterback for Michigan State in that one?
Yes, the pride of West Des Moines Valley High School.
That's right.
Here is Nebraska Ball Mike.
Oh, God.
Good Monday morning.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Listen, gentlemen, I need a favor. I'm sorry to make this call. I didn't want to make this call.
Is this personal or sports related?
Personal.
Good.
Okay.
My best friend lost his father on Friday morning.
Sorry to hear that.
Yes.
Happens to be one of the best musicians Omaha's ever seen. My assistant can drive me to the funeral. I need a van. I know exactly where to get it. I know exactly who to call. I know exactly how much it's going to cost.
Okay.
If somebody wants to tweet me, they can feel free to tweet me and we can DM from there.
Okay, give out slowly.
I've known this guy for 25 years. Great family. Love them to death. They're outstanding. If you know the band Rock Hard or Bo Dylan the Relics. It's the keyboard player. And if you want to know how good he was, he turned down Loverboy in the 80s.
Nice.
So that's how good he was.
Okay, we've helped you out in the past. Our listeners have been great. We've taken care of you. Give out your Twitter handle slowly.
My handle is Downtown Council.
And it's spelled with a C.
Yes.
Okay. All right. You know how great you know how great our listeners.
CONSEL.
Okay. You know how great our listeners are. They've come through in the past when you've just had a little minor request. So we'll work on it for you. Okay.
Mike, tweet something and we'll retweet it from our account.
Thank you.
All right. That it?
Sia Wright got himself drafted. As far as Nebraska basketball goes, it's going to be a long week.
Why? Because of all the Creighton fans that you're going to have to ward off?
No. Does anybody really think we're going to win? Come on now.
Keep it competitive.
Although,
Keep it competitive.
listen to me, Mr. Big Shot, Mr. All-American. Your class lost the streak in Omaha. So as good as you are, as much as you're going to get
2 years ago.
Up, whatever, first round, your class lost the streak in Omaha. We got you after 25 years. You have to live with that. So as much as you want to kick our tail, you still got beat in Omaha.
That's true. Sam Greasel never had to pay for another meal in Lincoln after that game.
Nope.
Yeah. And people avoided mono since then.
That was I couldn't believe that.
That's probably one of the greater moments of your life, correct?
It was interesting.
Next to Sasha Banks sitting on your lap.
That would come in there and do that.
Yeah.
It was interesting.
And they did.
Hey, I know how you roll.
I try, man.
I know.
And as long as this team makes an effort and gets better at the end of the year, who knows?
Yeah. I got a couple of things. We got to work on that shooting. But they are getting to the free throw line. But they got to make some shots. I got to find some threes that can fall. All right. Tweet at the show, Mike. We'll retweet it. Jimmy will retweet it. And we'll find a way to get you to your friend's father's funeral later this week.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, my friend.
Thanks.
All right. Downtown Council is Nebraska Ball Mike's Twitter handle. It is still active. He has not been banned from Twitter.
No, he's been good.
Not yet.
Yeah, well, we had a stretch of about 4 different Twitter handles because Twitter would ban him.
Well, because he was, yeah.
I had to have a discussion with him.
You told him what's right and what's not.
We no longer do that.
Yeah.
Shout out Miss Sprinkles. What was that her name?
No,
liked our show.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I do remember that.
They were responding to Mike. But then we were asking for pictures, and it just got crazy. That was the younger Mike. Tom writes into the Equitable Bank inbox. Saw this Husker fan attitude. I ran into a guy at the bar watching the game on Saturday that has the T-shirt "Saturdays are for pain and sadness," with a picture of the state of Nebraska.
Yeah.
Saw this guy at the bar Saturday night, and his shirt spoke volumes. And I truly believe it epitomizes all Nebraska fans these last several years. Ugh. And hell yeah, this team is cursed. How many balls can bounce off the face of a Husker player and land perfectly in the hands of an opposing player? Now that is true.
Yeah.
That's when you know when you know that maybe you got to just shut off the lights.
Yeah.
And yes, I get the double entendre there. Love the show. That's Tom in Omaha. Terry writes in, we seem to live in a real life Groundhog's Day where we experience the same things over and over, whether it's this year or the last 20. First series on offense starts deep in our own territory. We constantly catch punts inside the 10.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And I for a brief, so Gary, for a brief moment, I got really excited. I saw 17 back there. I'm thinking, hey,
yeah.
And then all of a sudden, he's inside the 5. Like, what? No! Oh God!
Yeah, and then you let a ball bounce at the 12.
Yeah. It's the
2 more games.
Special teams IQ.
Defense can't stop a running quarterback. We hire OCs who claim to want to run the ball but have a passing background and will throw on 3rd and 3 80% of the time. We're stuck in this hellish purgatory and can't seem to break free, so we find new ways to end up with the same results. P.S. Why does Nebraska wait until the end of the game to put Lloyd in? That was one of the first calls this morning. He makes plays in offense devoid of playmakers.
Yeah. And this is the thing of this whole conversation about Heinrich Harburg, having the threat of the run, all of those things. And I understand when you are 100% committed to Dylan Raiola because he represents what you eventually want to do offensively, and being an offense that can run the ball, that doesn't need the quarterback run element because you make up for it with the ability to take advantage of not only your quarterback's arm, but also wide receivers. But when you don't have a collection of wide receivers that you use, and that's the important thing that you use, because I think Jalen Lloyd still represents that. That would, in fact, you asked that question of guys you thought would be good, maybe were better. I would have, if you would have told me someone that could maybe even exceed your expectations this year, I would have had 19 circled. I would have thought that given the role that I assumed he would have, and I have no idea why that role doesn't exist, that he would have a chance to have a really big year because of also hoping that Jamal Banks and Isaiah Nayor would take some attention off of him as well, get more one-on-one matchups, and he would win those one-on-one matchups. I think he still can. I think he's still got, well, we know he's got the speed, and then the year 1 to year 2 ability to run routes, get open, which we've seen when used. I don't know why that is not the case. I just don't know. And so now I throw everything on the table as far as I'm also not in that camp of give Harburg a shot at starting. No. But can he be used in situations where you've struggled, i.e. the red zone or in certain plays? Absolutely, because the only reason to stay committed to 100% of Dylan Raiola is because the passing game still works. When Heinrich Harburg comes in, who does he got to replace? Well, most times he's either replacing the quarterback or the quarterback is off to the side. When you don't have an allotment of receivers or the passing game is not clicking the way that you want, then why do you have to be 100% of all the plays with Dylan Raiola?
Bernie says, Ty Robinson, John Bullock. That's a list of who's been better than I thought.
I'm going to throw in Ja'Cory Barney.
John Bullock's been quiet for a while.
Yes, he has.
Haven't really talked much about him.
Mm-hmm. I am going to throw in Ja'Cory Barney on that. I thought he had a chance to be good. He's a playmaker. He's the biggest playmaker on the offensive side. Didn't think that would be the case. Now, that also speaks volumes of the guys that I thought would be better than they are on the offensive side. But, yeah, I would throw Ja'Cory Barney in that category.
This is a good test. This will be we'll have the discussion tomorrow. Can you get to 5? Can you get to 6 players that were better than you thought on this current roster? All right, quick break. We'll come back, sift through some more emails, a busy day in the Equitable Bank inbox. We got time for some more calls if you'd like to chat. 402-951-1620. It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone. All right, crossovers coming up here in a little bit. Matt Rule speaks later this morning ahead of Wisconsin.
There will be lunch today, too.
Oh,
all right. Shout out lunch.
I saw the email.
Everybody,
Lunch with Matt.
head on down to the Hawks Championship Center. All right.
Tell him Nick sent you.
Here is Knoxville Chris, who I believe was in Los Angeles this weekend.
He left like on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Right, did you?
Yeah, I left on Wednesday night. Went out for a couple days. It was a good time. I will say, man, the Coliseum, that is incredible. I've been to 9 road games. It beats the dump out in Boulder and the trash can in Iowa City. That's for sure. So it's a gorgeous facility. Everything that you think it would be, and the way it's built straight up instead of out in the field is pretty intimidating. So it was a pretty good experience. But yeah, good time, and had to be home at least, that's for sure. So, but no, just wanted to get you guys' thoughts. I mean, I know it's one game. I know it was 7 days of prep and only 7 offensive points, but with Holgorsen back there now, I mean, we're still seeing a lot of screens from the tight ends and from the running backs. Are we going to expect that the rest of the year and then a total makeover next year, or are we going to see more of the same moving forward on the last 2 games?
Thanks, Chris.
I think there'll still be at least some presence of it. I think what I was left with Saturday, just purely from the offensive standpoint and knowing Dana Holgorsen is there, very intrigued. I thought that there were some moments where you could see his impact. I love the sense of urgency. I like that they mix that up a lot. You did see some of the mesh concepts that we know comes with the air raid. They were able to identify a couple of things too. And just getting Emmett Johnson not only more involved, but I thought for the most part in good positions too. It definitely is intrigued. And then I know these are just words, Gary, but quarterback is having a tough one. He understands what the climate is around this football team as far as a lot of the external noise. I thought it was really, I'm not going to chalk it up to just, typical player speak. What does it mean? That he did like the operation, that he seemed pretty confident in it, at least to the extent and to the tune that he feels that they are going bowling and they're going to take care of business this Saturday. That was a surprising proclamation, but I think that comes from a place of confidence of what they're doing in a short time offensively. It definitely has me intrigued.
Yeah, wrong guy to say that, in my opinion. The false bravado. I get it. You're the quarterback. You like that offense a little bit better, and you should like it. But if Ty Robinson says that, it's different to me.
It's fair. That's fair.
I just think it was a little false bravado that we're going to be, what do you say? We're going to roll into the next 2 games and a bowl game.
Yeah, but we're going to get the
No, I do think having a game under his belt, I think, the feeling of the personnel will be better for Dana. I think they can run some deeper routes. Like I liked, that's why I said, can you be mad and optimistic at the same time? Mad at the outcome because it looks all too familiar, but then optimistic because there were things in the offense, whether it be in a short amount of time, the splits were larger on the offensive line, which helped you run the football. The offensive line responded. They blocked better.
Yep.
Again, when a play is blocked for a touchdown, it needs to be a touchdown. Dowdell twice had that.
Yep.
I thought the quick game worked. I think they want the ball in Dylan's hands less time. And they tried to find everything to help him. And also, it shows you when he's pressured, you're in trouble. When the pocket was clean, he looked so comfortable.
Yeah.
But I mean, for the first game and a guy off the streets, I was encouraged. But now you have to make the next step is those got to end up in points, man. I'm not saying the offense was greatly improved. It had a different purpose.
Yes.
And it seemed like that the offense was in a zone and plays with the personnel made sense for the most part.
Right.
But at the end of the day, you got to put up points, and the offense scored, they scored 10 points.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing.
And they had only a little over 300 yards of offense. You can't have that. That's Brian Ferentz West all over again.
And you hit the nail on the head too. You had opportunities to finish in the end zone with what the defense especially gifted you there late in the game, not to have that ability to do it too. This is where I'm hoping that he being Dana Holgorsen is still getting familiar with some of the personnel, because I think he identified something. You mentioned the splits and how they were running the ball, but also with Jen Aaron Bonner being able to utilize him, which looked very, very refreshing, but still understanding Ja'Cory Barney's got to be a big part of this. I'm also really, really curious, and maybe we'll see this because this was another question that was brought up of a guy that's still trying to identify personnel and playmakers of, is that going to include Carter Nelson in these last 2 games? Because I don't know. I mean, that's a question. Matt Rule made it sound like Dana Holgorsen is going to speak tomorrow. So I wonder if he gets questions.
Doesn't Ed Foley know Carter Nelson better than Dana Holgorsen?
He sure does.
Carter's playing on all the special teams.
Yeah, he's in special teams. I mean, he's playing.
Dave writes in, I saw estimates where Nebraska had around 20,000 fans of the game on Saturday. I realize NU has an alumni base in California, but God bless those that decided to travel to watch the Huskers play. Not sure how anyone can justify spending money to travel to watch bad football. It would be one thing if this were the first time we played bad, but this is a broken record with the program. That's a common theme. People are balancing. Man, I love Nebraska. I only get so many opportunities. Plus, it was Los Angeles. I didn't mind paying $4.59 for gas. Or I didn't mind paying $13 for a Pepsi at the Coliseum or a hot dog that barely had any bun, or vice versa. The bun overwhelmed the hot dog.
Oh, yeah.
Our bun to meat ratio in this country, I'm hoping next year it gets changed.
Yeah, you've been on that one.
All right. That was not one of the campaign issues. I don't care who's in the White House. We got to fix the bun to meat ratio.
Absolutely.
We're not going anywhere in this country until we get that figured out. You can tell me all these other things that plague our country that are going to be improved. Unless we fix the meat to bun ratio, this country is not moving forward. We're going to be stuck.
I experienced that Saturday night with
But the
hamburger.
concession stands, I understand, we're not the greatest at the Coliseum.
No Dodger dogs.
So it's the balance of, man, I love my team. I support them. This is my vacation. I save up money. I don't go anywhere in the summer, but I go to road games. But after a while, there is the point of, the return on investment. And you're like, man, is it worth it? Because I feel terrible walking out of the stadium and all the really nice people at USC. And all I heard was USC fans were great towards Nebraska fans. Like, man, we love having you here, man. You helped our atmosphere. And you're like, lost 28-20. I did not say the whole word. Thank you.
That was a good catch.
Thank you. Well, I wasn't gonna say the whole word.
Weren't you? I think you wanted to.
I do have. We have to end on a question I have. So they've simplified the playbook. It's less thinking because it can only hurt the ball club.
Yeah.
Thank
you, Crash.
If this was a tweak by a guy that came off the streets, how come nobody in the program with a voice as a player or voice with a headset said, as the season was starting to unfold and the offense was hitting the wall, that somebody said, hey, man, Sat's playbook, that's way too much. We got to cut down. How come when Dylan and Rule were meeting individually, and I don't know if Satterfield was ever in those meetings, but when those two would be together, how come Dylan didn't say, man, that playbook is way too much? Was he afraid to speak up?
Yeah.
Was Rule afraid to say, hey, Sat, we got to cut this playbook down? Because every offensive player said, we made it simpler. The less plays, less thinking. How come nobody inside of the program brought that up before the USC game?
So had this conversation on Saturday, and this is where I think I've at least based on that question that you asked there, because I'm right there with you, is I might have misread even the relationship with Glenn Thomas and Dylan, because I would like to think that they're in communication more so than any member of that coaching staff, and then that is being relayed to the proper channels, whether it's Glenn, Matt, Satterfield, and Dylan all sitting down, or whoever's in that meeting, that I would like to think that you are, if you're Glenn Thomas, hey, speak openly to me, tell me what you like, what you don't like. I would like to think that conversation also happened with Dana Holgorsen and Dylan of tell me what you like, what you don't like. Let's pare this thing down. How the hell did it take this long? What is that? And this goes back all the way to that, we what was it, 2 weeks ago we discussed after the UCLA game, the preparation, something's missing during that week of preparation. It's not just the practice on the field, but the conversations that are being had with the key personnel members and the key position groups on why it took somebody, an outsider, to have fresh perspective to say, that's just too much.
Yeah.
That's kind of scary.
That's operational failure. You're doing it to yourself. I mean, Nebraska's motto is we make things hard.
Yeah, they do.
Come to my OnlyFans.com page. Just
Tying it
kidding.
all back.
Just kidding. But honestly, okay.
It's true.
Nebraska football makes things hard.
That's why
that's a t-shirt.
That touchdown pass to Egypt,
and then it's going to be the fully husked.
The Emmett Johnson.
I feel like I'm at a Jake Paul event.
Wasn't that one of the first scores that actually
cold
looked
miss.
sort of effortless, that looked like it all led to a big play as opposed to you are first and goal at the inch yard line, and it takes you 4 plays to get it in the end zone.
Yeah. All right. There are 2 more games to go. I still say Nebraska becomes bowl eligible. And they might have caught a break in the last 24 hours. But as you know, Nebraska makes everything hard.
Yep.
I mean, just give it to me easy. Okay? I don't need hard. I need easy. But we make it hard.
Never heard that before.
You want to make money, make it hard.
Just stop.
You want to lose money, make it easy. Crossover's coming up next. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 6.